Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
Oh, they're going to toss it. Haven't got it. He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's come back into play. Exactly, Miller's just start dropping. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Hello everybody and welcome to the Champion Motorsports Virtual World Sports Car Championship here in 2023. This is round 3 and we're heading to the bumps of Sebring for 1.2 hours of racing here this evening as the weekend of the 1,000 miles and 12 hours of Sebring draws ever closer. That's coming up next weekend. We're having our own little taste of that here this afternoon at Sebring for just over an hour of racing with these new LMDh and LMH cars along with the GT3s. As always, it's set to be a very entertaining afternoon of action. My name is Ewan O'Leary. I'm alongside Dan Pels for this one. In this in the commentary booth, Dan, it's great to be alongside you. I'm glad you're here to help me. To be honest, we're live on the JPV Broadcasting YouTube channel as always, and we're very excited to be here for round 3 of this championship. That's well, getting more popular, ever more popular, and ever more exciting as well with the new cars that we have on show here tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the track is something I want to talk about here with you. And of course, I was here last week for the historic one too. And well, that was a bit of a survival race. Let's put it like that. A lot of cars having issues, troubles with the bumps, especially turn 17. And turn 1 is a difficult one. Both long sweepers, of course, turn 17, a very long-lasting right-hander. You're going to have troubles there. Of course, keeping the left tires in great shape.
Yeah, it's going to be a real challenge, and we'll get to the challenges a little bit later on. Let's also talk you a little bit through the championship standings we've got going into today. I know it's a little bit non-consequential at this early stage, but we're going to show you anyway. At the top of the Hypercar standings, it's Daniel Kirby right now after winning at Daytona. He's ahead of Tom Lane and John Uyen in the third place. They were 1, 2, and 3. Sorry, at Daytona. Mia Rose is 4th, and she won at Portimao. Those 4 drivers all only competing in one of the 2 races so far, but they're still 1, 2, 3, 4. Ross Smith rounds out your top 5 in the Hypercar standings. In Hypercar AM, we've got Guillaume Benek at the top of the standings by just 9 points. Wayne Hutchinson is in second ahead of Barry DiMarzio, then Philippe Emmerich and also Cohen Garling 5th, William Miller there as well. There's your 6 drivers for Hypercar AM. We've got GT3 standings as well, of course. 6 points separate Vasilis Katarinakis. Sorry, I can't.
One, that one.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle. It's the first time I'm saying some of these names. I apologise for that. Alicio Neto is in second place instead of Luciano Icciazzo. Johnny Gutierrez and Brandon Gant in the top 5 there. Still all very close, as I mentioned. And GT3 AM, we've got 20 points between Stephen Miller and Ed Jones at 1 and 2 right now there with Eugene Majeur in 3rd, Mike Brewis in 4th, and Stuart Barge in the 5th position. Very early on in the championship, really, Dan, to be talking championship, really, but it's good to see where people are in the standings as of right now, and good to see what they'll be facing up to today as well with the challenges that are going to be coming today, and there are a lot of them in just over an hour of racing.
For sure, the driver's going to face a lot of challenges. Championship-wise, I think not too important. Not too many drivers will be looking at the championship standings very early on still in the season, so well, probably the drivers not too bothered about the championship standings at the moment. The challenge that the drivers are going to face on your screen, well, most of them. Cars are still new to the drivers, of course, all modded cars. These cars are not in rFactor 2 yet, so we're driving with mods. So the car is still very new to the drivers, but we are now 3 rounds in. We've had Daytona, we've had Portimao, and we're now at Sebring. So still very, very new, these cars. The race, it's going to be very hot. time is, well, 10 times multiplied. So we're going to have night as well at the end of the race, which is going to make things interesting. But we're going to have a hot call, different tires to use, fuel strategy, pit strategy is going to be important as well. And of course, Florida weather. Will we have rain? That's also going to be a big question.
Yeah, we were told no earlier, but you never know. I think, what was it, less than 10%, I think, is the chance of rain here today. You know, you never know, but it's certainly unlikely.
It's not 0%.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's not 0%, so you never know. We could well see some of that. Strategy, obviously, very, very important, as you mentioned there. We were hearing earlier on and talking a little bit earlier on about what strategy these guys are going to employ. In Hypercar, we're between 2 and 3 stops. In GT3, I think it was nailed on 2 stops, or with maybe a 1 stop for somebody, but probably 2 stops for the GT3s. It's going to start to get easier to work out towards the end of the season, but to go back to one of your points earlier, these cars are still new, and so the strategies won't be as obvious as maybe they'll be by the end of the year.
From what we, of course, saw last time round at Portimao, and if you had the chance to have a look at that, of course, the Porsches, very fuel friendly. They were the cars that, well, you wanted to be in them to have the least amount of stops possible. 2 stops there for the drivers. So that was a little bit of a shorter race, though. An hour long. This is going to be a little longer, an hour and 12 minutes, just about. But yeah, fuel, definitely you want to be in the Porsche for that one. We have heard that the Acuras are maybe just as friendly on the fuel too. So it's going to be interesting. Fuel saving, it's going to be a massive part here of this race because you don't want to be left out to dry in the end with at least 1 pit stop more.
Yeah, certainly. Good evening to everybody in the YouTube chat as well, by the way. Make sure you interact with us and chat along. Biggles will be in there for most of the day, I'd imagine. As will, Michael Davis already been having a conversation with him, so there you are. We'll get some conversation going down there in the YouTube chat, and it'll be great to be joined by you all there throughout the course of the evening, because it is going to be a relatively long one. It's one of the longer races, and we do have an extended point system for this one as well, Dan. We have this for 4 of the rounds, sorry. Here at Sebring, Watkins Glen, where we do 60 laps. The finale at Bahrain is a little bit longer of a race than the others, and so is the final one on American soil, 100 minutes long. So this is one of 4 races with a slightly extended point system than we see usually, but not as much as Daytona, which has basically meant that Daniel Kirby didn't have to compete at Portimao and still holds the championship lead. So a little bit heightened importance today with a few more points on the line.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be an interesting one. We're going to have a look, of course. At the moment, if we look at the standings in the race, you can see that or the race, the practice, excuse me, we're not in the race yet, a little bit ahead of time, but you can see that's all still very close. And, you know, for qualifying, what kind of times are we expecting? Low 45s, high 44s, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was 45, we were told, is going to be the region for the pole time. And at the moment, 3 drivers have managed that. Mia Rose, John Uyen, and also Tom Lane, 1, 2, and 3. Daniel Kirby is who we're looking at right now. He is the championship leader in Hypercar, in that Peugeot. Now, I do want to just touch on this Peugeot just a little bit here. But first of all, can I just say how amazing it is to have these mods in rFactor 2, and a full shout out to all of the guys that make this possible in terms of the actual cars. They look amazing and sound amazing as well. Well, if they didn't drive amazing, then we wouldn't have quite so many on the grid. So fair play to everybody who's been behind making this mod. But I have to say something about this Peugeot, because it stands true in real life as well. This is a very accurate build, of course. I don't understand much about aerodynamics, but how the hell does it have any rear downforce with no rear wing is what I want to know. How is that possible?
From what I know, from my, I do have a distinct lack of knowledge about aerodynamics too. We both have. But from as far as I know, it's creating its downforce just like modern F1 cars do. Through Venturi tunnels basically under the floor, and it's creating its downforce by sucking itself to the ground, which will mean that there's no rear wing necessary, really. If you look at the shape of, well, the rear end of that car, it does have a little bit, sort of a rear wing, but you can't really call it a wing. It's a wingless car, and I find it really weird to look at.
Yeah, I do as well.
It doesn't look quite right, does it?
Oh, I joined the server earlier on. As you know, Dan, we were having a bit of a conversation about about the stream tonight and so on. As we see, one of the Glickenhaus actually off the road down at turn 3 down there. But no, we were chatting a little bit about what's tested a couple of streams and all this kind of thing. I turned on the stream. I saw a Peugeot immediately. I thought, oh, someone's lost their rear wing already. No, it's just a Peugeot. So there we are. Going back to Hypercar AM now, where we've got Guillaume Benck in the current championship lead. William Miller in the Cadillac here is down in 6th place in the standings right now. That's 39 points adrift of Benck already in this one. Looking up and down to see who out of the AMs is actually here. I can't see Guillaume Benck in here at the moment. I can see Wayne Hutchinson, though, who's in the 2nd place right now and is coming off the back of a win at Portimao as well. And judging by this practice session right now, looks like Wayne Hutchinson is having a good time of things and is currently on top in Hypercar AM, which is a good way to start his evening.
Well, Hutchinson, of course, last time round 1 in the Hypercar AM class. At that race, we did have a little bit of a chat, of course. Hutchinson, well, was away for a little while driving these cars. Said he wanted to be competitive, so they placed him in the Hypercar AM class. Now, what is your opinion about that? You once were a champion in this class. They promoted you up to the full Hyperclass Pro class, as I like to call it. And I don't know, really. It doesn't quite feel right. It doesn't quite sit right. The fact that you've already been a champion, you've proven that you're good enough to win a championship at that level, and they then again put you there. Is it yes and no, kind of, for me? It's
such a difficult one to do, and as you say, alluded to there, you've got to kind of balance it out. We've got a pro and am, because as we were speaking earlier on, you do want these drivers who are further down in the standings to, you want them to fight for championships and things, but that's not always possible. So by creating an AM class, you can give that opportunity to many more. So it's a real tough one. I would agree if the gaps were quite so big, then I would agree. But for now, the gaps in this session are quite small, and we'll just have to see how it develops over the race. As we were. As I mentioned, these are being reviewed all of the time, and so maybe it will change somewhere down the line.
Yes, as far as I'm expecting, it is going to be the Acura that is going to lead the way early on, probably, in the race. That car, though, is going to drop a bit. That is the longer race pace of that car, at least in Portimao, didn't seem that strong. So I do think that those cars will be dropping off the Glickenhauses, though, mainly driven in the Hypercar AM class. No car, as far as I know, in the Pro class for the Glickenhauses, or I've missed something. Could have been the case, but as far as I don't know, Glickenhauses in the Hypercar Pro class. So to give the Glickenhaus its full glory in the Pro class, I don't think we're going to see that today. But it's a quick car over a long stint. Qualifying pace, though, isn't quite there for the cars, so it's going to be difficult for them. They're going to have to make up places in the race, and I don't know, they always say qualifying doesn't really matter in an endurance race, but to me it kind of does. You want to stay out of all the chaos happening kind of in the mid-pack.
Yeah, in terms of staying out of the chaos, I think it will be important. You do see an occasional messy start here at Sebring, where things do get a little bit tight. But I think qualifying is just going to force a natural selection anyway, really. We're starting to see the best drivers come through already in this practice session. I mentioned the top 3 there. Daniel Kirby's just there in 4th place. But as soon as you get to Timon Subic further down, Gilles Lalonde as well in 6th place, you start to see some bigger gaps, and they continue on to get bigger. So I think it's going to be a case of natural selection anyway, and everybody's just going to do their best in qualifying and see where it pans out. But that's coming up here very, very soon. at, well, 5 minutes time or so, maybe a little bit longer, we'll have qualifying. It is split, 10 minutes GT, 10 minutes Hypercar, if we want to, 10 minutes Hypercar split. So that's not long, really. Around a circuit like this, it's a relatively long circuit, but I'm just thinking about the amount of cars we have on the grid here today. In terms of just finding some free track space over the course of those 10 minutes is going to be quite tricky as well.
Well, if you want to talk about the Hypercars and the GT3 cars, 17 cars we are expecting in the Hypercar Pro class, 7 in the Hypercar Am class, 5 cars in the LMGT3 Pro class, and 16 in the LMGT3 Am class. So all in all, enough cars to have a little bit of fun around this track. And yeah, like you said, it's going to be difficult. Of course, the Hypercars got to go out on their own, as far as I know, to set their lap times. Then we will see the GT3s or the other way around. And so not too many cars at the same time on track. However, if you take the Hypercars on themselves, there are still already 24 cars out on track. So it is going to be difficult. You are going to have to kind of space yourself. You're going to have to be looking when you want to start that quick lap.
Certainly are. As we go on board with Adrian Rice here, currently down in second in the GT3 order right now. I believe this is his first run out in the series this season.
It is.
Yeah, I thought that might be the case. He's just behind Brandon Gant right now, who was on the podium at Portimao in the GT3 category. And there he is in the BMW, just sat in the garage right now. But there is the story, and what is going to be the story of the day today. Traffic going past on the Ormond Straight just towards Sunset Bend. Now, that wasn't too bad. That traffic was all nice and clean. It didn't really affect either of them loads either. However, that is going to be a big story today because it's not a hugely wide circuit and not an easy one to work your way through when you are, well, faster driver, and in terms of letting people through as well. When you're a GT3, it's going to be very, very busy.
Yeah, it is. What I want to go back to really quickly, Ewan, is what went down last time round at Portimao. I have the results here right in front of me. Of course, for everyone that still remembers, it was Maya Rose who took the victory overall. And in the Hypercar Pro class, behind that, it was De Bruyn and Barker in P3. So all in all, in the Hypercar Pro class, a fuel-saving race, which was the strategy in the end. What was it, about 50 seconds in the end coming across the finish line for Maya Rose was the gap. So a huge gap for Maya Rose there in the end. And I don't know if we're going to see the same here from Maya Rose, but that was a demanding victory out at Portimao.
Yeah, I think you've got to remember that the top 3 in the championship weren't there, and all respect to her because she's up there in this practice session right now, and if they all were there, they probably all would have had a good fight. Same thing if Mia was there at Daytona, so we'll see how it goes today. I mean, do you think the race was, obviously I think it's quite obvious that it might have been closer, but the race result may well have still been the same, even with everybody there. When you're in the zone like she was back at Portimao, it's very difficult to catch someone like that.
Well, Tom Lane, as far as I remember last time, was also there. Or that was last time around. I don't think Tom Lane was there, indeed. Tom Lane wasn't there. And
no.
He's in the Porsche too, so he technically just has the same car as Maya Rose has. It all comes down to setup and driver. Now, talking setup in endurance racing, Ewan, is always kind of a cliche thing to do because you can either set the car up really quickly but it's going to eat its tires, or you can kind of, well, set it up so that it's easy on the tires, you can go longer on the tires. So the only way you're going to see that is by waiting till the end of the race, and we said it a million times last time round. You're going to have to wait and see, and that's what I like about endurance racing. You can speculate during the race, you can kind of look for patterns that are creating itself, but you never know until the end really who's going to win.
You certainly don't, and that is one of the great things and one of the things we're looking forward to throughout the course of the day today. By the way, the servers are being split here, so we will have server 1 and server 2. We're going to be focusing here excuse me, on server 1, and the others in the split 2, obviously going to be racing, well, not on their own, but because they'll be with others as well. But yeah, there's a split here. It means that the total race times of everybody will be taken and then ordered into a standings after the fact. So we won't be able to predict fully where everyone will be in the standings or whatever after this race, but that doesn't matter too much. It will all be combined and it will all be very clear by the time we roll around to the next race for the 60 minutes of Long Beach coming up in a few moments' time. But we're not very far away from qualifying now, just over 2 minutes remaining here in practice. And it is going to be an interesting one to see who gets on pole for qualifying. We're going to see GT qualifying first for 10 minutes, and then we're going to be in with the Hypercars. So looking forward to that. And at the very least, the tyres that you were mentioning are not going to be a factor around there. It really is going to be in the race. And as we were talking about earlier on, it's really about the heat that you put into these tyres rather than the actual wear. You've just got to make sure that these tyres stay cool and stay in the right operating window before you, smash them to pieces. And before they start going bad, that they're going to get really warm. But if they're going bad, they're going to get really warm, and that's what means you lose time.
Quicker time for Mara Rose, practicing a little bit of qualifying here, I think. A 45.5 for Rose. Going to put her, well, where she was before at the top, a little bit more of a demanding lead. 45.5. 1-0. Now I do want to touch on tires really quickly for the last time in this practice session, because we didn't have a lot of time left. Compounds for the Hypercars will be the soft and the medium. There's no hard for the Hypercars. For the GTs there is soft, medium, hard, and of course the wet tires. No intermediate, so it's only one type of tire to choose from if it does start to rain. Now that is going to make the decision a bit more difficult for the drivers to make, because the only thing you have is a real wet tire. So when you go onto that tire, you're either going to have to wait a little bit longer, or the tires that you are putting on the wet tires are going to wear out a little bit quicker at the beginning of a wet stint. Now we are not expecting any wet weather here today, less than 10% of a chance of rain, so not a lot, but the weather is the weather. You can't always 100% fully predict it, so there might still be some rain on its way, but as far as I know, not a lot of chance for rain. But those are the tire compounds that the drivers have to them, and that's gonna, give the drivers enough to choose from, I think.
I think so, especially given the weather situation that we have. Not very big chances of rain. By the way, we do pull real world weather in, but it's seemingly a dry day here today at Sebring, so we are not going to see any rain here by the looks of it, and it's going to be a dry opening to this season. By the looks of things, Long Beach is going to be one of those where it's going to be difficult for it to rain there as well because of the climate, but we are going to Spa, then Le Mans later on in the year. Those kind of circuits really do see a little bit of rain as well, as Giuseppe Ribeiro makes his way over the line. That will be it for practice, and we'll be underway with the first of the two 10-minute qualifying sessions very, very shortly. Tension's going to be mounting now, and as you say, important 10 minutes coming up, whichever class you're in.
Yeah, definitely. Qualifying is where it's all going to be said, of course. With the servers being split, though, I don't think it's going to be as busy out on track as we were expecting. So finding your way on track and finding room to set your quick lap is going to be a little bit easier. So the drivers will be looking into that. Now, as far as I know here, it won't be a perfect split, so we will have, I think, more drivers in one of the other splits. It's always difficult to do that, let's be honest here, Ewan. But all in all, I think you are going to approach the race a little bit different with the fact that you now have, it's kind of weird to say, but you put both races into one result, and it's the full race time that in the end matters most. So are you going to fight less if you're at the front and try and get forward and try and fight it out at the end?
I think that might be the call. whatever happens, though, you've got to look at the split that we have right now. 38 drivers still in this split, which is quite near to capacity, really, and only 11 in the other split. So you've got to say that there is an advantage in being that second split there, because there's less cars out on the circuit, and so you think and less traffic as well. You think they'll be able to run a little bit faster, and maybe there is even an advantage to running in that split. For example, the GT3 Championship leader. Guillaume, the GT3, who is it? Hypercar and Championship leader, sorry, Guillaume Benck is in the other split, looking for other names who are up there as well. We may have lost our only Glickenhaus to the other split as well, unfortunately. I was looking forward to seeing that out there, but I think the only Glickenhaus is in the other split now. So I certainly think there is an advantage to being in that one, just because of the less traffic, and you might be able to lower your race time just a little bit with that.
Yeah, and well, it's going to be interesting, 11 drivers in that split. Now, I do think if you're in the hypercars and there's like 3 other cars with you on track, you are going to have a little bit of a boring race, The traffic, that's when you need traffic, really. If you're in a multi-class race and you have like 3, 4 GTs that you all the time have to overtake, it's going to be fun the first time round, but after that, you're like, okay, I'm now driving on my own. And I hope I can stay close to the hypercars that are with me. Otherwise, we are going to have a bit of a lonely race.
Peter Meyer is the first of the drivers in his Mercedes to make his way through the final corner and begin his qualifying lap. This is going to be the important 10 minutes for those in GT3 and GT3 AM as well. And we're on board with the 087 driver in the AM category right now. I believe it was his teammate in the practice session who, or are they independents? They might well be independents. But yeah, it's Meyer who's out there first right now. Just behind him will be, who will it be? Well, let's see. They're making their way towards the end of this sector. I think Peter Meyer will indeed be first. Out here, just in front of Adrian Rice is the one you can see in the background. But this is very much about setting the benchmark. Normally you'd want to get a banker in at the start, but I mean, this session's so short that you just have to try and get it all done all at once here, really. Just go as quickly as you can through the entirety of the session, if you can.
Well, I do still think that some of the drivers are setting a banker lap at the moment, because you never want to leave everything to the last moment. You want to make sure you at least have a time on the board. Mercedes is not going to do that. And he's going to, well, have to reset back to pit and have to start all over again. And that's what you said. That's the risk you do take. And that's what I just wanted to point out. Like, if you do push from the beginning, there is a chance you only get 2-3 laps and that you won't be able to, well, set at least a safe time on the board. And then afterwards, just start pushing. We're looking with Miller here. He's got to set a time on the board if he can get through these last couple of corners cleanly without putting it off track somewhere. So it is just important, I think, to always be sure you do have a time on the board. And after that, you can go your full 100%.
Well, Stephen Miller hasn't been holding back here for the last few moments. He's making his way into the final turn now in the McLaren. We'll see what the benchmark is here in GT3. He makes his way up towards the line. Rice sets the benchmark for GT3. For GT3 AM, it's going to be from Stephen Miller. It's a 2:03.5. That is just under 2 seconds behind Rice. And immediately, Craig Pullen goes a little bit quicker there in the 77. Sashin Sobers was the fastest in the practice session there of any of the GT3s, and he goes up towards the front now. A 2:06, which is actually quicker than Brandon Gant, who was quickest in practice himself for GT3. That is a big gap at the front of GT3 and 1.9 seconds right now.
Yeah, that's a big gap to overcome. Now, what I do want to point out is the fact that I think Pullen had a little bit of an off moment, or at least a little bit of, well, a mistake in his lap. So I don't think that full 1.9 seconds is the margin we're going to, well, look at the end of qualifying. But with this, once again, this session being so short, there isn't a lot of time, and now already an improvement for, well, I think Brandon John. No, it isn't. It is. Let me have a quick look. boost, I think, at in the 082 in second. Now 1.1 seconds still off of Sobers in the GT3 AM. So GT3 AM class at the moment, quickest class out there.
Yeah, that is very surprising to see, because Sasha and Sobers has just done such a good job to start this one off that they're faster than the GT3s right now, and faster than second place. Matt Buist in the Lamborghini by 1.1 seconds. Quite remarkable indeed. In this server right now, by the way, as some of them, a few have trickled out into the other server, by the way, just to even numbers out a little bit, I think. So far, we've got 16 times on the board, and most of them have indeed been completed by GT3s. I think that is going to be most of the GT3s. We do have more Hypercars than GT3s, really, as Adrian Rice goes over the line and gets to within a second of Brandon Gant at the front. This is Craig Pullen through the final corner. He mentioned that he might have had a mistake on his opening lap.
Well,
for him, I'm afraid, still fourth at the moment. But interesting to see that some of these drivers not wanting to just go out there and go as fast as possible through the entirety of the session, but some want to come in to the pit lane midway through and then go back out again for a second run.
Well, the thing I want to point out real quickly here is that I do have access to the live timing of the other session. I do agree with you, by the way, Ewan. The quickest time there is 2 minutes, 0.008. So just 0.2 of a second slower than we have here. So the times there are not very much slower than they are in this server. And like you said, it could well play into your hands being in a little bit of a less crowded server. So you do have, well, a little bit more clean air to try and, well, overall get a quicker race lap time.
Yeah, that's that means, by the way, we've had 50 drivers here today coming in. So that's fantastic to see. Lots of people. James Walker has just gone a little bit quicker there in GT3, by the way. He gets in front of Sasha Sobers and Brandon Gant to now lead the way through with just under 2.5 minutes to go. This is going to be possibly the second last lap here for Walker. Look, he looks like he wants to just continue on and go as fast as possible throughout the entirety of the session, and you can't blame him. But the gaps still are very, very small. It's half a tenth to the first of the AM cars and just under a tenth to his nearest rival in class.
Those margins, well, blink and you miss it. So Sobers, of course, going to have, of course, a little look at trying to, well, see what he can do. He's off the track, though, so he's not going to do a lot with that. And I think if I look at the time that is remaining, that is going to be his qualifying over. James Walker, though, the man at the moment in P1, is on a little bit of a flyer again. 3/10 down, though, in the middle sector. That's not going to be his lap time. I think it was down, was purple in the first sector by about 11 thousandths of a second. So not a lot, but those are the margins that if you do gain it, they could prove vital in the end. If you look at the margins, how they are at the moment, 42 thousandths or 400ths of a second is the gap now at the top, which is not a lot. Of course, if you look, Brandon John, of course, has gone into P3 now, also within a tenth of that pole position. So it's not all over.
Certainly isn't. It's not going to be for Sobers by the looks of it, but James Walker has gone quicker in the first sector. Lost a bit through the middle, actually, but might still be able to improve. Oh, no, half a second away from where he was previously. Think he's going to be able to push on for one more here, but we'll wait and see. Filippo Morazzi makes his way towards the line as well in the Ferrari and moves up a bit further. 1.2 seconds off right now in that 7th place in the Ferrari. So, yeah, indeed, 18 drivers here in GT3 in this server. That means we've got 18 hypercar drivers as well, with a nice bit of symmetry there. So that's good. Becky Ellie off the road through the final couple of corners there at the Le Mans chicane at the end of the circuit. Spits you out onto the back straight and then towards the final turn as Tom Mountjoy makes his way to the line as well in the Corvette. Currently way down in 17th place, only ahead of Ed Jones. He makes his way over the line, and 2099 is certainly not where he wanted to be. Final seconds tick down, though, and you can see at the back of the pack there, the Hypercars are lining up to, well, get themselves underway for their first laps here in qualifying as Kataranakis makes his way through for the final lap of his qualifying.
Well, if he isn't going to be quick enough, he will see that some Hypercars are going to catch him up. Of course, the Hypercars will take it easy on their outlet. They don't want to stretch the tires too much. They want to get the tires up to temp. But of course, you don't want to put too much load through them before they actually are supposed to be used for your first lap. Now, of course, these tires, not built like Formula 1 tires, they do last a lot longer than Formula 1 tires do. So these cars can go for, well, a couple of quick laps in a row, so that will mean that it doesn't all depend on your first flying lap. You will lose a little bit of performance. The tires are best after a lap or two, but yeah, I mean, with the short session that we have, I don't think you're going to get more than, what, I think 5-6 laps maximum.
Yeah, it does look like that is the case as we pick out Mia Rose from the middle of the pack there briefly. Fastest in practice. It will be fastest in qualifying as Timon Suvik goes for a spin. It was top 10 in that practice session, by the way, in Hypercar, so expecting a good time there, but not with that spin, certainly. So it does look like it's going to be James Walker to take this session. Jamie Zalecki is the final of the GT3 drivers, out through the final corner right now, coming over the line and looking to improve as well. Doesn't need too much of an improvement to even get up inside the top 5, and he does get up to 5th. So that's a good late lap time from Jamie Zalecki, and he will move up to 5th, and that will complete GT3 qualifying with James Walker on the pole.
Yeah, that's a good lap for him. Still, though, the margin's really slim at the top as the Hypercars are now going to start their lap. Looking at Maya Rose, who's now coming through the last corner, a vital corner, an exit that needs to be good. And of course, through your quick lap, you want to have a good entry and good exit and a good mid-corner speed, because that's important through that corner. Lasts for a long time, that one. And the bumps there are going to be an issue as well. A little bit of an off-track, running out a little bit of road there for Maya Rose, but not too bad. She continues her lap, but that's a good lap there for Walker, and in the end that gives him pole position. That lap time was set quite early on though in qualifying for him.
Relatively so. It wasn't right at the very end, but yeah, it was a good lap, good enough for pole position. Now we're into Hypercar qualifying though, and we're on board with Mia Rose, who was fastest in practice, and it was the race winner at Portimao. But we'll be going on a little bit further than we did that day, because it was only a 1-hour race, and this is 1.2 hours, and so we'll be going a bit further. Needs to be careful of this Peugeot up in front that's rejoining, that's helpfully stayed out the way. I think that was it was either John Owen or Daniel Kirby, I would think. But either way, back on the road again as Mia skips past one of the slower cars. I'm trying to see quite who that is. It's Barry DiMarzo, I think.
Yeah, that's not going to be ideal for Maya there. And that is gonna, well, hamper the lap time a little bit. Not too much, a little bit of an off-track moment again, using everything on the road available to her and a little bit more. Let's hope that there's no off-track in that and that this lap time will stay. I do think that she was 4 tires over the white line there on the exit of the second to last corner, turn 16. Coming through turn 17, now the last corner, very close to that wall. But let's look what the lap time is going to be, a 1:45.009. That's a very quick first lap time. I said we were expecting 44 highs, and we might well see one with that lap time.
Well, Daniel Kirby right now is on top in the Peugeot, and he's done a 43.9, which is absolutely unbelievable. So, well, he has blown the field apart here with that one.
Wow.
Because that's over a second clear of the rest, and we weren't expecting that at all. We got a mid-44 from Mia Rose in practice, but that was after a lot of practice. And finally, Daniel Kirby's just pulled a 43.9 out of seemingly nowhere on the very first lap. That is unbelievably impressive.
Well, I do have the quickest lap times here. We did not get a 44 from Maya Rose in practice either. The quickest lap time is a 43.941. That is the pole position time at the moment. Second after that is Maya Rose with the lap time she's done so far, so that's a personal best for her too. And it's still a second and a bit more off of what Daniel Kirby has been able to do, so that's a quick lap time, and I don't think anyone will be able to reproduce that with the amount of pressure that is now on the drivers. That is one to put down as your first lap time, isn't it?
Oh yeah, as you mentioned, that we do get word through of the best laps completed in any class throughout the throughout the practice phase and since a few days ago when people started practicing and so on, and that is comfortably quicker than what anyone else has been able to do. And wow, a second clear of the rest. That surely is going to be pole. We've seen Tom Lane's lap time there. That's got him to third. And it was John Uyen who was off just in front of Mia Rose on that lap we just saw. And so that's where it went a little bit wrong for him. He's currently just behind... I thought he was on his own actually on the way up there. Oh no, he's just gone over the line there and into third place. So I thought he was still on the back straight, but he's up over the line and Uyen up into third place ahead of Tom Lane in that fourth. Alexander Schultz makes his way around the final corner now and up towards the line in the Acura, and a 46.5 will get him up to sixth place in the overall standings right now for Schultz. That's not a bad lap time. It is all relatively close, but certainly more spread out than we saw in GT3, where it was a very close qualifying session.
Well, that second of a gap at the top of the standings. I did not expect that Daniel Kirby going for another one. He thinks he can improve in the lap time. He said that's how confident he is. And, well, left it all on the table till, well, qualifying really, I think, with the lap time that he has put down and the confidence that he has going for another one, thinking that he can improve on already what has proven to be a legendary lap time, really, in this car. No one able to get close to it. He's comfortably quickest in qualifying and in the whole session, really. So that's going to be an interesting one. He's going for it now. What he's going to be able to do through the first sector. Going to have to wait a little bit before we get our sector time in. It's going to be on the exit of this corner. Hey, if I am correct with that, there we go, purple again, and he's again improving by about half a tenth of a second. So he's again going quicker on the lap time that everyone thought already would be pole position.
Well, I thought this would be unbeatable even by himself. I didn't think he was going to go any quicker than what he's managed so far. But Daniel Kirby clearly has some more to give here now. And he is giving it his all once again as he makes his way out of Tower Corner towards Bishop and the final section there at Le Mans, where you need a really good exit for the Ullman Straight. We'll see as we go on board now, just riding these curbs, open out that final corner as much as possible, and then you can go. This has looked like such a clean lap so far. He's a quarter of a second quicker than his personal best. We could even see a mid-43 here, which would be absolutely unbelievable.
Well, if we see that, then, well, we have to put something on it. I don't know. I don't know, really. It's a crazy quick lap time if we do see it. And, well, we're going to see what he can produce across the line. Can he go half a second quicker? No, he can't, but he can go quicker, though, with a 43.762, while putting the field even more behind Maya Rose at the moment on, well, a 45.009. Can she improve, though? At the moment, it looks like she's improving by quite a lot, but it isn't going to be enough already. Half a second down on the lap time that Kirby has been able to produce. Here we go across the line. What is he going to be able to put down in her Porsche 963 across the line? And it's going to be a 44 mid. So getting close to the lap time, but still 7 cents down on the 43.762 that Kirby has been able to put down. It's going for another one here. His teammate, John Ewan, is going to once again try and, well, put his teammate off the pole position. That's a little bit of a slide, though, coming into that corner. Not what you want to be able to do. And, well, that's his lap time going to be done. I think that's an off track for him. 7 tenths down in the second sector. Still improving, though, so it could still be position improvement. He only needs about 5 tenths to go up into P3, but that lap time over 43.7, it looks unbeatable. Even that 43.9 did, but that 43.7 even more.
Yeah, it does look pretty unbeatable there at the top of the standings. And so Daniel Kirby surely is going to be leading them around on that first lap with this pole position through the final corner for John Uyen now. Doesn't look like he was pushing to the max there. I don't know if he's going to be able to improve, and he won't. 2 seconds down on that time from his teammate. Kirby even went a thousandth of a second faster in the first sector there, another purple sector, but didn't complete the lap, and so we'll come back to the pit lane. Tom Lane in his Porsche coming up towards the line. Can he better Mia Rose? Not quite. Not even going quicker than his own personal best. Mia Rose here not improving on her best either, and so going to stay in second place. That looks like it's pretty much going to be it here for Hypercar qualifying. as Rose comes through the final turn right now. We've got Barry Zimardo also out there right now in the Acura. That's another pole there by just over half a second ahead of Wayne Hutchinson there. And, well, even more of an improvement, a 46.3 for the Hypercar AM pole sitter. But that's pretty much going to do it. And that'll be the end of the session. And a wonderful lap time from Daniel Kirby, a lap time we didn't even really think was possible. Well, he's just produced it, and he'll be on pole for this race. Well, what a lap time. And Kirby surely going to be leading them around. Mia Rose will be alongside. And with those top four in the championship and top four here in this session as well, it is going to be very, very interesting indeed. I think there was an improvement there by somebody as we get the results up. Kirby, Rose, Lane, Uyen, the top four. Then Timon Suvic, Brian Hall, Sigfred of Gilles Lalonde. Then it's Alexander Schultz, George Angelidis, and also Ross Smith on the fifth row together. And Graf, Overton, Monnier, Dahlgren and Cherry Chen, to round off the 15-car Hypercar standings. Only 3 in Hypercar AM. Barry Damaso, Wayne Hutchison and William Miller, the 3 drivers there. As we have a little look at the GT3 standings as well, Dan.
Well, the GT3 standings are going to be as follows. James Walker is going to start from pole position. John in second. Katsarinakis in third. I have to say, difficult last name. Zolenke in fourth, Rice in fifth. Only 5 drivers, of course, there in that Pro class. If we're going to look at the AM class, we will see that there are more drivers in there. There we go. We will have Sobers on pole position. Mazur in second. All in all, a very close qualifying, though, in the GTs. Closer than it was in the Hypercars. Marazzi in P3. Or Matt in P4, Greg Pullen in P5, Meyer in P6, Eddie 7th, Miller 8th, Boost 9th, so both races in the top 10. Mike and Matt, I don't know if they're related though. That's going to be my question for this race. Adam Gray in 11th, Monjoy in P12, and Ed Jones is going to round off the grid in 13th.
Yeah, so that is, well, how many of us are there? 36. Here in the field after that qualifying session and after things have just changed a little bit. The drivers will now be having a pre-race briefing and then we will be getting into it properly. That's why you can see all the drivers currently down on pit lane and, well, not really moving anywhere, not really doing anything right now, Dan. But I wonder what this warm-up phase is going to be like for these drivers, whether they're actually going to do anything with it or not, or whether they are going to just sit there and compose themselves before the race begins very soon. But they'll have a lot to reflect on after that qualifying session.
Definitely. Of course, some drivers will be happy with their performance. I do think that Daniel Kirby will be very happy with his performance this time round. 7 tenths ahead of the whole field. Now, usually warm-up is being used for, well, kind of see where you are in the pit stalls. It can happen in rFactor too that you usually have to share your pit box with someone, or usually that you do share your pit box with someone. Now, we both know, Ewan, that in iRacing, you can drive through people in the pit lane, which is not really realistic. rFactor 2 is set, well, you can't in real life, you can't in our sim. So that means that you are going to have to park up alongside someone. So if you do see that happen, that means that they both share the same pit box, and that they have to line up alongside each other to get both served at the same time. Because if you do have to go into together with someone, you are going to have to be alongside them, otherwise you will not be able to get service, or you're going to have to wait. And the stacked stop, well, you're going to lose a lot of time with that. Pit stops here can take up to a minute, if not more, if the drivers take tires and fuel at the same time. So you are going to be losing a lot of time, so you do want to minimize that time loss. So you are going to have to line up alongside someone. So if you do see that happen, don't think that the driver is just saying hi to the car he's alongside. So no, he does have to do that because the pit stalls are shared. Now, I did this last week with the, well, the historic one. we didn't have pit stalls shared there. We had a similar driver count in the server, which means that I don't expect it to happen this time. I do quickly want to go to the times that have been driven in the other server too. Now, I am a little bit too late with that because I can't see the times anymore of qualifying. What I can tell you is that Giuseppe will start on the pole position there in the Porsche 963. So a Porsche on pole position there, not a Peugeot, but it's exciting to see a no rear ring concept starting on pole position. We haven't seen too much of the good stuff really in real life from that Peugeot. It's been struggling a little bit with reliability. Not an issue here in the sim, but it's great to see a wingless car working in the sim.
Certainly is. We've got a couple of different manufacturers up towards the front there in that service. Porsche, Acura, Ferrari, Cadillac, the Glickenhaus in 6th place there. So wonderful to see that we've got that in that server, and of course also Peugeot, Porsche, Peugeot is the situation we have here. We do have a BMW, Cadillac as well, but it's mainly Porsches and Peugeots in this server. We are now joined, by the way, by Ross Smith, who has jumped in after that qualifying session to come to have a quick chat with us now. Ross, welcome to the booth. How was that qualifying for you?
Thank you. It was wasn't as great for me, just because I wasn't able to string them together the way I wanted. But we're not overly worried. It's going to be a longer race and for this series, so there's plenty of time. And we saw this exactly play out the same way on Thursday. And George and I were up there fighting for podium position towards the end of the race. So obviously, just got to be careful picking through the crowd. And by the end of the race, we should be there battling for the front.
That is, of course, the hope. What are the conditions out there looking like now? We know that it's going to get dark later on and possibly a bit cooler as well. But how hot is it out there right now? And what effect is that going to have on tyre management over the course of the hour?
Pretty warm, and yeah, it is going to impact the tires, especially those who are looking to use soft tires as part of their strategy. Ideally, you'd be able to take the mediums and just use them to the end here, and some drivers will do that. But the way that the tire model is interacting with all the weather and everything, you're going to see the softs. They would typically be very useful in the early run. Anyone who abuses them is going to find that heat degradation just really coming to bite them. So it's going to take patience and consistency, but you can pull it off. You can swap out some softs and get new ones on, or you can roll the dice with the mediums and see if temperatures stay up into the night. Because if they drop off too much, then you could lose too much heat in the mediums, and even if they're not worn out, they'll feel like you're driving on ice.
And just finally, in terms of this race as well, I know it's not unusual, but we do have a split servers going on here, as we've got, I believe, 51 people racing it here today. Does that change anything when you're in your individual race? Does it really change anything? Is it ever a thought that you have about the other server? Do you race it any differently when you know that your time is being taken, really, and then the order sorted from there?
No, you can't, because otherwise your brain's going to wander. I mean, you got to be a driver and just focus on what's in front of you and let the chips fall where they may elsewhere. I mean, it may be disappointing by the end, but you just got to put your best race in with what you've got. Obviously, this server is a little bit more congested than the other one, so there could be a slight advantage there for some of the drivers. Some of them I know aren't regulars, so I'm not overly concerned. You hate to see points slip away when that happens, but I don't think it's going to be a huge issue right now. I wish him the best of luck. I hope it's good racing all around.
We hope so too. We wish you the best of luck as well, Ross, for this race. Thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us just before this one. Yeah, we'll see you out there. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for JPB for coming in and doing this, working with Storm Gang and CMS to make this just an absolute smash. Thank you guys.
Thanks very much. That's hopefully what this 1.2 hours of Sebring is going to be. It's great to be here. My name is Ewan O'Leary. I'm alongside Dan Pepels here this afternoon. William Dent is behind the cameras, by the way, and that's what we're seeing, camera work here this afternoon, and a big shout to him as well. But Dan, the briefing's going on right now. I have one thing I have noticed based on the Discord. There's a bit of discussion about pit exit going on, and I can see why, because it is one of the circuits where pit exit's quite a tricky one. But there's a lot of discussion around that going on now.
Well, the thing is, the pit exit, really, you can see it here. It merges on, really, to, here we go, this point, that's where you merge on with, like, the racing line. And now the problem with that is, usually if you merge with the racing line, it's generally what you do coming out of pit lane, really. But the problem there is that you're already committed to kind of a corner. And the car won't react well to sudden direction changes in the middle of a corner. There's already so much load on the outside tires there that if you all of a sudden just change direction, the car can react well, very weird to that and just spit you out into the outside wall there. Of course, last year in the 1,000 kilometers of Sebring, of course, I can still remember, saw the Toyota flip in the first corner. It's still, it's such a scary sight to see, and it's such a difficult corner. And it wasn't because of a car coming out of pit lane, but that is something that can happen with sudden direction changes coming into there. And oh man, hopefully that doesn't happen again. Luckily it's a sim, but I can still see those pictures in my mind, and it was so scary to see. Luckily the driver walked away without too much injuries.
Yeah, in terms of crashes, we're about to see, obviously, the race start here. It's a very narrow opening to the Sebring International Circuit. Through turn 1's a very wide entry, and it's quite a flowing corner on the way in. But on the way out, you funnel down in towards turn 3, and, well, it is very narrow. So just what kind of a start do you think this will be? Well, obviously, we'll hope it's going to be a clean one, but how do you think it's going to go?
If we go off turn 3, you really have to be single file coming up after turn 3, because from there on in, it gets really tight to the exit of 5, really. It's a really tight complex at 3, 4, 5. So, yeah, you do really want to be side by side. This is what I said. This is the pit stall. See where you are on the grid. See if no one is on the same pit stall as you. So that just got to see if that is not the case. That's why you see all the drivers coming through pit lane now in this warm-up session. They're going to give the drivers the time to do that. And there you saw it for a little bit. I think Maya Rose had to share the pit box with someone. Can we go on board with Maya Rose for a second here? Because I do think that, no, it was not. It was, I think, your teammate there, a little bit further up in the pit lane. But there was a car sharing the pit box with another car, and that is what can happen. Now, those two drivers will be on the voice with each other, and they will tell each other from, can we not work something out that I pit a lap earlier than you, or a lap later, so that we don't have to pit at the same time. But, you know, if there is maybe some rain, you know, you can't really say to one certain driver, you stay out and I go in, because both drivers will want to have the best tires at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're not, you know, running side by side with someone in a pit stall, it's still a case of fitting your way in to one of these boxes, because, you know, it is quite narrow, it is difficult, and as we mentioned, you can drive through in iRacing, but you've got to drive around here on rFactor 2, and you've got a bit of a problem doing so as well. It's a real squeeze, and there is parking side by side. One of the Hypercars with that Lamborghini having to park side by side, so it does get very, very awkward. And I guess thankfully they're sharing with someone not in their category, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Now, my question is, how is that GT gonna get out of its pit stall? Because it looks like it's kind of boxed in by the GTP. So, yeah, questions need to be asked. There we go. That's a beautiful view of it. That Lamborghini, look at the two BMWs ahead of it. That car is never, ever going to get out of its pit box without really the actual leaving, or the Porsche, sorry.
My, it gets worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, like, look, how is this, now tell me, how is this Lamborghini supposed to leave its pit box? It's completely boxed in.
Well, yeah, we're pretty boxed in back here as well. I think that's, I'm not sure actually.
This is going to make strategy interesting, Ewan. This is going to make strategy interesting. You might well want to go off sequence a bit here.
I mean, to be fair, we do have all but 2 in the box right now, which obviously is not contributing, sorry, and that's never going to happen in the race. But as you mentioned, what if it rains? Then everybody will be in all at once here, and it will look like this.
And now, how are you going to get out?
Well, exactly. The idea is you don't actually. Towards the pit entry, though, is you know, a lot more calm. So I'm not sure why the middle and end is so well populated compared to the start, because look at this compared to where Mia Rose is basically on her own, and she's got boxes either side of her as well.
Yeah, there are still some cars out on track, so not everyone has filled up their pit box. About 2 cars, 3 cars still running out on track here, 3 cars. So it's a weird one, honestly, because if you see the pit stalls, a little bit of a fight going on here in the warm-up. That's what you love to see. But keep it clean, guys. It's only warm-up still. But it's weird to see. So many boxes seem to be free, and still it seems like some drivers have to share with others.
Yeah, certainly. This is Marazzi and Sobers, by the way, who are making their way through the final couple of corners. They are the final 2 to come back into the box. Still 6 minutes of warm-up remaining here, but we'll be getting into the race as soon as possible. Just waiting to see. We haven't got the other server into action either just yet, so we're not really behind them. But as we mentioned earlier on, the race times will be taken, and as Ross Smith explained to us earlier on, it's not really consideration for the drivers at the time, only post-race really, where you have to think about that. Oh, Marazzi's early, or is he? I'll try to find his box here. And there we are, pulls into a relatively unpopulated area. And what about Sobers now? Oh dear, he's heading to the middle and the end here. Oh, please don't be with one of these lot. This is going to be terrible. Oh no. Oh, there we are. Alongside. Well, I don't know if he's sharing with that McLaren or if he's got the one right behind, but he won't be best pleased with his placing there.
Now that is going to be an issue for the race as many times as we've said it now, but I'm still like flabbergasted about the fact that look how crowded, like you said, it is coming to the end here of pit lane. And really, like, where are you going to go? That's an engine that seems to be smoking. That has got a bit hot.
Someone left it running in the pit lane, I would imagine. And so going straight back to pit lane for one of the Porsches. More ideal to turn it off. Eric Moynihan is suggesting, by the way, in the game chat that actually everybody's alone in their boxes, but I don't know if I believe him based on what we just saw, or whether people are just very close. Not entirely sure, but yeah, it was all very, very crowded, and it's all sorted now. So the final moments of warm-up are going to commence properly, and there'll be a bit of driving now for the next few minutes before we finally get into this race. But a long run of anticipation for these drivers now, because qualifying ended quite a while ago, a good half an hour ago for the GTs, even more so. And now they're having to get ready for the race. So it's a very long period of anticipation here.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what I am going to be interested to see is, are these drivers going to be able to make the tires last? Or the tire choice of the drivers is also going to be an interesting one. Are you going to take the softs? Are you going to take the mediums in case of the hypercars? Are you going to take the hards in case of the GTs? Now, I do feel that the hards might be a bit unnecessary. Hards are maybe one to go 2 stints on in GTs, which will mean that you will go 2 hours on them, which we're not going to reach here. So hards might not be used here this race, but we might well see a driver or 2 go for it just to be safe. But it all depends, of course. We're going to see in the race. Interesting, or interesting to see all the strategy play out, and you never know really, Ewan, until the end of the race, really, who's on which strategy and what strategy in the end is going to be the best one.
It's just impossible to know, really. But that's where the testing comes in, really. This is only 1.2 hours, and so it's not, you know, unconceivable that somebody and some of these drivers will have actually tested whole race distances on their own, either on their own or maybe in one of the practice servers as well. It's not inconceivable at all that you know, these drivers have tested out a number of strategies over a full race distance and just done a whole race simulation, because it's not that long of a race. You can test it out all in one go on your own, or indeed on the server.
Well, with the shorter race distances, really, it's oh, that's the Ferrari off. But with the shorter race distances, it is really just a case of, you know, seeing what you can do. You can simulate a full, of course, hour, 12 minutes, which is what it's going to take here. You will see the drivers now get onto the grid, the Acuras, the Cadillacs. Every car will be able to get out. A Cadillac, a car that we've not touched on a lot here. But, you know, we'll see where the Acuras will be. Through the race, the Acuras really strong. Qualifying pace, not so much. The Cadillacs too, really strong during the race pace, or excuse me, the Cadillacs really strong during qualifying, not so strong during. So, I am switching up a lot of manufacturers here. Let me start over. Acuras, strong in qualifying, not so much in the race. Race distance, they are going to struggle a little bit. Cadillacs, not so strong in qualifying, stronger over a race distance. Porsches, strong in qualifying, not so strong in the race in terms of race pace. Fuel is going to be something that those drivers will be looking out for, as will the Acuras, by the way, too. Now, the Peugeots is really still a guess for me. We didn't see too much of them out in Portimao. Acuras not being driven too well there, so they were further down the pack. Now, with a pole position time 7/10 quicker, even if you drop off a second, you will still be there at the front of the field. Here we go, the grid.
Let's have a look at the grid for the Virtual World Sports Car Championship. With that first four, Kirby, Rhodes, Lane, Uyen in the first four. Then we've got Timon Subic alongside Barry DiMarzo, the first of the Hypercar AM drivers, with Brian Hall and Gilles Lalonde on the fourth row together. Alexander Schultz and George Angelidis will be in the top 10. And it's Ross Smith, who we had the pleasure of talking to during warm-up in that one, just ahead of Norm Graf. Then it's Matthew Overton ahead of Wayne Hutchinson, then Eric Meunier and Magnus Dahlgren in the only BMW we have in the field, ahead of Jerry Chen and also William Miller, one of the Cadillacs, to round out the Hypercar field. Then it is James Walker on pole for DT3, ahead of the car of Sasha Sobers, the leading GT3 AM driver. That's Brandon Gant ahead of Vasilis Katsarinakis. Jamie Zolecki will be just in front of Eugene Mazur. Adrian Rice will be in the Porsche on 25th ahead of Filippo Marazzi. Matt Bruce will be ahead of Craig Pullen, with Peter Meyer in 29th. Becky Ellie rounding out the top 30. Stephen Miller in the McLaren 31st alongside Mike Booth. That's the 16th row on the grid. And then one more block of four that we've got Adam Gray coming up next with Stephen Booth. Tom Mountjoy and Ed Jones to round out the 36 entries we have here. There's 15 in the other server as well. 51 cars on the grid here for the 1.2 hours of Sebring in the Champion Motorsports Virtual World Sports Car Championship. It's great to be here. JPB broadcasting this one for you live, and we will be throughout the entirety of the season. As the formation lap gets underway, we'll have roughly 1 hour 12 remaining when we get this race properly underway for the first time. And it's going to be one we're very much looking forward to. A really, really big grid and a really exciting race coming up as well.
I'm looking forward to the race. Kirby, of course, leading us away here this evening with an amazing pole lap from him. 7/10 quicker than the whole field. You do see the drivers now rolling on to their starting grids. Drivers will be starting single file. This is to, well, minimize the carnage that will be going on in the turn one. And the drivers will not be able to start until Kirby crosses the start-finish line. So he can start when he crosses the start-finish line and not earlier. That is just to regulate him. Once again, like I said, minimize the carnage that could potentially happen going into turn one. Luckily for us here this evening, that will not be happening with the starting format we have. Of course, it is going to be Peugeot, Porsche, Porsche, Peugeot on the first two starting rows of the grid. Now, Ewan, strategy, I don't know which tires these are on. I don't know if we can get a graph up on what tires these drivers are on at the moment, but it looks like, at least I think, not too many drivers going for the softs. There we go. We see mediums for Kirby, softs for Rose though. So that's going to be someone who's going to be looking to switch tires as well. Tom Lane also on the softs. Mediums there for Ewan. So it seems like, well, mediums for the Peugeots. Then we have another soft runner in Sujovic in 5th, and then another soft runner in Hall in 6th. So the Peugeots could well be eaten up here at the start of this race here, Ewan.
Certainly could. We'll see how it goes.
Mediums.
Apologies, yeah, it's a big decision to make, and I think the even bigger one that they're going to have to make a little bit later down the line is whether you do a tyre change or not. That's going to be the real key here, because there may be some willing to go without a tyre change throughout the day, and there may also be some who, well, will have to do that. So we'll wait and see how it goes. But it's Peugeot, Porsche, Porsche, Peugeot. Then we've got a number of Acuras, 3 Acuras in a row, followed by another Peugeot and another 3 Acuras. The first Cadillac in 12th position, ahead of another 3 Porsches. The only BMW down in 16th, ahead of Porsche and then Cadillac to round off your grid here. We're on the back straight. We're very close to getting things underway. 1 hour 12 remaining on the clock. We're just going to get slightly shorter than the allotted distance by the looks of things. But that doesn't matter too much. We'll be making our way towards the final corner right now. And Daniel Kirby will be getting this race underway after that wonderful qualifying lap. A 1 minute 43.7 was the time, and it was comfortably quicker than the rest. Mia Rose right behind, looking to try and make a move and overtake early on here, because that's what this might require here in the opening moments of this race. Kirby through the final turn and up towards the line now. We're just over 1 hour 11 on the clock. One of the longer races in the Virtual World Sports Car Championship. Round 3 looking to get underway. We get up towards the start-finish line and we are underway. Daniel Kirby and the Porsche leading them round the first turn surely, with Rose, Lane, Ian the top 4 right now. Through they go, and there is Ian already looking to make moves on Tom Lane, but it's actually Lane who is closer to Rose by the looks of things in these moments. Down towards turn 3 they go. It's single file between the Hypercars.
Well, the one, of course, advantage that we had by this start, it was the fact that we were already single file before we went through the 3-4-5 complex. So that's a little bit easier. Rose already eyeing up Kirby. He's going down the inside. He's going to be able to make that stick. Both P1 and 2 already early on in this race, side by side. Rose is going to be able to make that pass. Still though on the outside, it's Kirby fighting this one, but the Porsche is going to edge ahead.
Very, very close between the two of them, but Mia Rose gets it into the bottom of the hill. They're down there at turn 7. Fantastic move, and Kirby is going to have to come back a little bit later on to challenge there, but that was quite a moment from Mia Rose down the inside, and a great, great move to make. That was through Bishop they go, and up towards the end of the lap, the field very much getting very strung out behind as they all get away. I'm just trying to see which cars have problems here on this opening lap, because clearly somebody has. It looks like Matthew Overton in the Hypercars, who has gone off the road earlier on, and he has had problems on this opening lap.
Well, that is not the start he was hoping for, definitely. If we look, of course, at the GT field, we can see that, of course, the lead there is still in the hands of Walker. John, of course, trying to make his way past him in the, well, BMW. Now, I do think that someone in the GT field, I don't know who exactly, has had a little bit of an off moment. I don't know where it is. There it is. The white Porsche, I think, has had a little bit of an off moment. I don't know exactly who that is. That might be Rice, but I do think, you see, I don't exactly know where that was. The only thing I do know, there has been an off moment there for the Porsche.
Looks like it. Yeah, I think it was Andrew Rice, possibly going off at the final corner, maybe.
Right.
Yeah,
Right, was right through sunset. Sorry to cut you off there, Ewan. The Lamborghini is now going to try and make his way past.
Yeah, it's Matt Burris who's trying to get through on Filippo Marazzi right now, just in the background there. Fighting for positions a little bit further down. I say, well, a little bit further down. They're not even in the same class. All two of them. Marazzi 4th place and looking to get up to Matt Burris in the 3rd place in AM. And, well, he has done that now as Burris has been overtaken by Rice, who's trying to get away in GT3. Fight for 3rd in GT3 AM, and it's a 3-car fight, all in one train, heading down towards turn 7. Out of the hairpin, which has a slightly strange chicane-like exit to it, and now down towards Cunningham in turn 10. We're on board with the BMW. Craig Pullen right now making a bit of an impression.
Where's he going to make the move,
Marazzi right now?
Where is he going to make the move? Where do you eye up to make this move if you're Pullen? It doesn't look like he can get past there. This is the battle for those two. Vic, you can see it. The Peugeot's now starting to struggle. Kirby is dropping down from Maya Rose as well. Now, I do question, is Tom Lee going to be able to eye off Kirby here in a second? That gap still seems to be growing, but you can see the rear of that Peugeot already struggling. And we do have to remind ourselves, though, the Peugeot's the only cars onto the mediums. Well, this might be forced with the tire wear being a bit higher for that car, with it sliding a bit more. Maybe that's the effect of not having a rear wing, but we never know. But those two cars starting on the medium, the only two cars to do that in the top 6, which will mean that they will be able, if they have the same tire wear as all the other guys, to be running a little bit longer on a little bit of a higher pace. Now we will see that come into effect a little bit later on here early on, though, and I think we will see Maya Rose and both Porsches and Acuras behind increase or eat into the lead of them.
Well, yeah, this is one of those things that's going to develop over the course of a longer race. As I mentioned, this is one of those races with an extended point system because it's one of those 4 rounds that is a little bit longer than the rest, the others being at Watkins Glen and Bahrain and Road Atlanta coming up a little bit later on. But this is one of those races that is a little bit longer than the normal distance. It is going to take a little bit of management throughout, and it is going to get a little bit darker later on as well. We're effectively doing a 12-hour race condensed into an hour 12 here in this one, especially in terms of the time of day we are. So it's yeah, good to see, and good action early on here today as we're on board with Matt Burris here on the back of Andrew Rice down the hill towards turn 10. Not able to get through, but this is where the Lamborghini really wants to get through because Marazzi and Pullen are not too far behind.
Well, he's going to be able to, or he's going to want to make this move rather quickly. Now, I always do love the look of that Lamborghini. It looks very, very aggressive. We have yellows in sector 2. That's for a car off the road a little bit further on. Now, of course, the field getting stretched out a lot, of course, from P. Well, what, 9 to P16. We have a fight in the hypercar class. The fight that's a little bit behind this, the top, well, 5 has broken away from the top 6, 7, and 8 here. But behind that, from P9 all the way down to P16, it's a fight between the mid-pack.
It certainly is. I think it involves the
there we have
leader.
it.
Yeah, there we are. It's involved with Gilles Lalonde there in the Porsche, Peugeot, I should say. He is in the middle. Very nice livery he's got on that car as well, by the way. But it all extends down from DiMarzo, who's in the 6th place. You've got Brian Hall and Alexander Schultz not far behind. George Angeladis is getting under pressure from Ross Smith. And not far behind, Norm Graf is leading the likes of Lalonde, Hutchison, Dahlgren, Monnier and Chen as well. They're all fighting right now in these positions. It's very, very congested through this, while the leaders are getting more spread apart, especially in Hypercar. The mid-pack and the lower pack, very, very entertaining, even now, very close together.
Well, we're going to see that as a bit of a trend, of course, in the GTs. This field will stay a little bit closer, of course. In the hypercar, you want to be working, or you want to be working on strategy. Hypercars now, though, coming up to their first round of traffic. So now is where the time is going to be won or lost. Here we see it through turn one, a little bit further up the road. We have Maya Rose coming into the first bit of traffic. There we have the Lamborghini on the inside. Maya Rose already a little bit wide. That gap is already 2.5, though, so extending. Now, if you do look at changing tires, you want the lead of about 20 seconds if you really want to be safe if you change tires.
Yeah, certainly. Well, are they going to be changing tyres or not throughout the day is the big question. Rose gets through on the first bit of lapped traffic there. And now the grouping is going to get, well, even more thicker and faster because the next, 8 cars are all very close together indeed, which is going to be a real problem, and especially for these guys as well. They're in their fights of their own here up in front in the hypercar category, and so it's not going to be able to be very easy on the slower classes either when they've got all of these people down there inside. So we'll see how it goes, but it's very congested at this point in the order. Still over an hour remaining, and so you've got to be patient, but I do wonder how much patience there will be.
Now, something I want to point out is the fact that Barry DiMarzo, the man in P6 overall in the hypercar classes, leader of the AM class. And if we look at where Hutchison is down in P13. So he already has about 7 cars in between him and Hutchinson. And how handy is that? Of course, it is our early game here. Early on in this race, it doesn't matter where you are now. It matters where you are after that hour and 12 minutes, but 6.8 seconds the gap already after what, the first 11 minutes of racing. Now, that's a big gap already.
Certainly is. That's Hutchinson just behind. Well, he's involved here in this big group who are coming up on their first bit of lap traffic of the day as well. And there it is. There are your hypercar standings, by the way. The higher of the two classes. Very much going to have a difficult time over the next few moments as well. Rhodes now into the back of the long train. Some battlers now, and so this is where the race is really won and lost. As we said earlier on, it's an iconic endurance racing circuit actually, Sebring. It really is. However, it's not easy on lap traffic. It's really quite narrow, and so traffic is going to be the name of the day. It's going to win and lose some races here today.
The Peugeot tried to make its way past and couldn't quite. There was a Lamborghini in the way in the form of lap GT traffic, and that allows the Cadillac to just, well, edge ahead of the Peugeot still. And we're now going to come on to a little bit of the back straight where we will see that it's very difficult to just make those moves. A little bit of a kink in the middle of the back straight there. Here we see coming through Sunset where you can see the bumps throwing the car really outside, or throwing the car to that outside wall, and you get really close to that outside wall, and sometimes it feels like you're a little bit too close to the outside wall for comfort.
Oh yeah, it's certainly not comfortable, but it has to be done really to maximise your speed around here. It's a very fine line to walk. James Walker still leading this one in the GT3. Sashin Sobers is in second place overall, not far behind in terms of distance, but Katarinakis and Zalecki, who are fighting over second in GT3, are a long way behind. There's the 8 seconds, and there's the battle for the lead as we pull back to see Sobers. He's got 10 seconds over the nearest GT3 AM runner. You know, qualifying times are one thing, but it's about staying consistent over the course of the race, and so far Sobers has been able to do that despite being an AM driver well into the GT3 field.
Well, that's impressive from Sobers. 10.4 seconds to lead already for him in the AM class. That's a demanding lead already in these early stages of the race. Now, traffic will help with that. We're going to see these gaps ebb and flow a little. What do I mean by ebb and flow? You're going to see that Sobers is going to gain some time with the hypercar traffic coming through. which will mean that the gap will open up to about 12 seconds. Then Sobers will get some unlucky traffic as well. The gap will drop down to about 9 seconds already again. And then after that, you will see that the gap once again to open up to maybe a stable 10 seconds if the drivers are on the same pace. That is how the traffic usually works. It doesn't always work like that. It does work in someone's favor most of the time, but over a longer distance, I always say, Ewan, it kind of even out.
It does kind of even out. Yeah, it does. Over the course, for sure, you can get a little bit lucky runs and whatever through traffic. However, it generally over the course of a race does indeed even out over the course, and so there's not too much to complain about. But so far, Mia Rose has just absolutely smashed this one. 7 seconds is the lead over Kirby. I have to say, I was not expecting this. Maybe the others behind are saving their tyres a little bit more. Maybe she is going to make a tyre change here today over the course of the stops in the hypercar category. But my goodness, this is quite a lead that has been built in, well, only just under a quarter of an hour in this one.
This is what you showed out at Portimao as well. And I'm pretty sure that this is purely on pace, on merit, not anyone behind saving tires. This is just killing, or just killer pace from Maya Rose at the moment. Killing everyone behind her with the pace she's setting. Everyone has to push to try and keep this gap somewhat respectable before we go into the pit stop phase. Now, I do expect in about, what, 10, 15 minutes maximum for the first drivers to come through. Look at this, though, absolute chaos through the traffic. Now here we go, the Cadillac eyeing up the, the Porsche eyeing up the other Porsche ahead of it. This is Jerry Chen in 12th at the moment. And, well, this is an interesting one because where can he go? It doesn't look like he has too much room to go anywhere, really. Everywhere on the road there seems to be GT traffic. The BMW on the outside, that's going to slow him down on the exit a little bit. And once again, that gap opens up. This is what I said, ebb and flow of the gap. The Acura now making its pass to the BMW. I do have to say, I like how that car sounds. It does have like a futuristic sound to it, doesn't it, Ewan?
And a look to it as well that's certainly very distinctive and very in keeping with the BMW brand, even if the cars themselves do look space age sometimes and not completely, you know, like you would expect from that particular manufacturer. BMW certainly have with the grille that wouldn't look out of place on one of their GT3 cars, to be honest. It's a very good looking car as well, and a nice paint that Magnus Stalgren has been able to get as well. You can see some of it with the fact that we're on board right now. But yeah, have a look at that from the outside. It's one of the best liveries on this grid, but we have a lot of good liveries on this grid.
Yeah, we do. And, well, I have to say, my favorite livery so far is actually Maya Roser livery. I just love how the pink, look at it, the pink Panther kind of theme with the black stripes. It's just a striking livery for me. Do you have a favorite, Ewan?
Well, I do like Mia Rose's livery as well, by the way, for Queen's Design, but I would still go for Magnus Dahlgren's, just about. I am a fan of a multicoloured fluorescent colouring livery that he's got going on there. I do find it very nice. He is making a move. Oh, on the outside line of Alexander Schultz. That was free wide as Andrew Rice was very much on the inside line there. It looks like Dahlgren has got through, and he has, up into 12th place in the class. And I believe 15th overall in this race right now. Or 14th, quite possibly. No, 13th. Oh, goodness. It continues to get better for him. So upper place, up to 12th in the class, and looking already on the back of the Porsche of Jerry Chen as well. They go through Bishop now towards the final section of corners. Oh, it's not going to be inside line this time. It might be outside instead, as Schultz has the best seats in the house to watch. He's going to benefit from it and dive down the inside of the BMW. They'll be side by side through Le Mans and out onto the back straight as well.
Now, I do have to say the BMW did get the position there. I do think he had to give it back. He was off the track on 4 wheels. He was all over the curb, and that was not where you were supposed to be through that corner. Now, the Porsche is up in front. The BMW, well, regains that P12 that he had. Of course, behind that, it is the Acura from Schultz now coming through in 13th position. So all getting back to the normal position, but the BMW, what a run he had through that little complex there.
Yeah, fantastic. and was able to gain places.
Has the Acura gone into the pits there? Sorry to cut you off, you, but has the Acura gone into the pits? It looks like all of a sudden the Acura is out of the picture there. I don't know if you go back to P12 and 13.
I think Schultz is in. I think Alexander Schultz went in there in the Acura. I don't see anyone in, actually. So I don't know. Yeah, he did seem to just drop a lot of time, and he has dropped a lot of time. The gap already out to over 10 seconds here for Schultz. There he is. And the sort of Red Bull branding as well. I've got no idea what could have happened to him, really.
Well, it seems like he's either gone into pit lane with a really short stop, or something has happened into sunset, which is easily done. It's a very easy corner, or it's a corner where a mistake is very easily made. So I do think that it's either sunset or it's the pit lane. Now, let's hope for Schultz that it's pit lane. Otherwise, he's in a little bit of trouble in that class.
Certainly. This is in the Hypercar top class. By the way, where the gap's already down to 3.5 seconds. Daniel Kirby has stepped it up a little bit, and Mia Rose getting caught here in that leading Porsche. Last lap was 1.4 seconds better from Kirby, and there he is. And the free track space they're enjoying right now as well, although they're pretty much onto the back of some more GT3 traffic anyway, and that's going to be the story of the race. It's going to remain the case, really. There's going to be a lot of traffic for most of the rest of the day.
Well, that's going to make it very interesting for us, of course, as commentators and as viewers at home. Let us know in chat, what do you think of the traffic at the moment? It seems like the drivers are having a little bit of issues getting through it, and it seems like at the front, though, look at the gap. Maya Rose now starting to lose. Now those soft tires seem to be giving up as we're on board with the Acura here. The Acura is, well, a very reliable car, a very quick car in the GTs too. As you can see, P2 and 3 taken by the Acura at the moment. In front of that, though, it's Walker in, well, you know, in a very quick state. The McLaren, of course, very quick at the front. Now, the only McLaren, though, in the field is Walker, so it seems like, well, the only driver really eyeing up that car, and it seems to be a really good car around this track.
This is the battle for second in GT3. Two Acuras involved, Zalecki and Katarinakis, coming out of turn 7 now, and then towards turn 8 and 9, which are not really corners, and then turn 10, which most certainly is, as Daniel Kirby's in. So that's just over 20 minutes, or just around 20 minutes for him, and already into the pit lane, which would suggest that maybe the Peugeot will need 3 stops today, as that's one of the Hypercars off the road down at turn 10 there. Kirby in the pit lane very early.
Yeah, that's a very early stop for Kirby. Now, so you think we'll see what we'll be able to do now. Maya Rose is going to react to the fact that Kirby has now gone into pit lane. He's going to get some fresh tires, maybe. Don't know if we saw that car go up on the jacks, but definitely some fresh or a new tank of fuel. That car will be heavier, so I think running longer for Maya here will be the shout if she knows that Kirby did not take tires. If we look at their pit stop time, it was, well, what, about 30 seconds, 35 seconds there for Kirby, which will indicate that there was not tires there at the beginning of that stop, which will mean now that she does not have new tires and that she's not going to be substantially quicker than Rose was. I think actually that he's going to be slower coming into this thing. He's heavier now, Ewan, so it seems like running longer for Rose and maybe Tom Lane as well is going to be the strat here.
Well, 15 minutes remaining. I wonder here, now hear me out on this strategy. Kirby, of course, on the softer tyres, if I'm not mistaken, here in this one, and so are a few others as well. If this is a 2-stop race, it's quite awkward to work out which stint you do 2 fuel stints with the set of tyres and which one to do 1. If he, you know, takes on a little bit less fuel at each stop but makes 3 stops today, then he can evenly split this race up on tyres and change them halfway through and maybe run a bit harder in the process as well. So maybe he is planning on 3 stops today, but just to space out those tyre changes a little bit more than having, you know, doing it awkwardly really, with 2 stints for one set and 1 stint for the other.
Now, if we do look at the top 6, it seems like all drivers in the top 6, yes, all drivers in the top 6 are onto the soft compound of tyre. So it does seem that that was really the one to go with here in the early stages of this race. Now, it is going to get cooler towards the night time of this race, towards the end of this race. So the softs will be better there if you maybe use the tires, the softs now and the mediums after this stint, which is still a possibility. Like Ewan said, I don't know, it's a strategy, such an interesting thing to always talk about, and it's something that we, usually as commentators, know nothing about. We're here guessing in the booth what these drivers are doing, and usually we're always wrong, because strategy is such a complex part to talk about. Tom Lane 15.2 seconds back on his Porsche counterpart in Maya Rose, which, well, she's in the commanding lead at the moment. We do have to look at the lap times that Kirby has been able to put down over the remainder of, well, Maya Rose's stint. Now, I do feel that that Porsche is going to run long on the fuel. Now, everyone basically is running longer. Of course, the Acuras behind that too, Smith, Civic, Hall, Angelides, all running long, all Acuras. So it's at the moment 3, 4, 5, and 6 for Acuras. Then we have a Peugeot. So the first of the Peugeot was Kirby in P7, so already has got his way up to P7. Eric Monnier in P8 in the Porsche, already a little bit of a way back there. But, you know, a commanding lead for Rose at the moment. Strategy going to play into a part here too. I'm excited for the end of this race already, how it's going to play out.
Absolutely. It's very, very interesting to see. Mia Rose is in, though, along with Tom Lane. Tim and Subic as well, all into the pit lane. Subic still waiting to come to a stop. Now we're approaching 35 seconds here for Rose. Is it going to go on a little bit longer? It will. It's a little bit longer of a fill. Now, does that mean we've changed tyres here for Mia Rose? Daniel Kirby is certainly going to go through and back to the lead as well. So Rose is still sat there. Now, she's changing onto
tyres.
Is it going to be a medium tyre stint from now? We won't know until she's left the pit lane, but this is a much longer stop, and it's a very big lead for Kirby. Also, Kirby's teammate, by the way, John Ewan, has also changed. Well, he's at least had a pit stop. Not sure if he changed tyres or not, but did get out in second place ahead of Mia Rose, just about there. Rose still, by the looks of that, on soft tyres. So surely she's not changing tyres at the end of every stop.
Well, if we look at that, it seems like she's changed once and she's now not going to change again. At least that's what I am expecting. And if you look at the time, look at how long she's exactly run. About 25 minutes in this race. Now, 25 plus 25, you get about 50. So our next stop is with about 50 minutes into this race, which will mean that there will be, you guessed it, about 20 minutes to go. So I think that the Porsche has to only stop once. Ewan and Kirby, or at least Ewan, is going to have to, or is going to be able to only stop once. Kirby, though, I do think will need to stop again. But if you see the lead that Kirby has at the moment, it's quite a demanding one, and the room is there to make another pit stop.
Yes, certainly. I do think there is going to be a disparity here between how many pit stops each of them make, but so far it is a Peugeot 1-2, Kirby, then Ewan, then it's Mia Rose with 15 seconds back to Ross Smith, who's currently in the third place. Tom Lane, and then Ross Smith in fifth. Brian Hall is now ahead of Smith as well. Has Smith got off the road? Looks like he has. Ross Smith may well have gone off the road here because he's dropping down in the Acura and still going as well. George Angelidis has gotten through, and there he is at Tower Corner, getting back underway again. It does look like that Smith went off the road.
Well, it doesn't. Oh, and again he's off the road. Is that car crabbing? Is that car crabbing to the pit lane? Has it had a little bit of an incident? That car really doesn't seem its own at the moment. So that could well be some issues there. Oh, some traffic in the way as well in the form of the Cadillac. That is not what you want to see. Smith dropping places here. And, well, he's surely going to go into pit lane. That car's crabbing. He's had something happen to him on the inside. There is another hypercar coming through now. Look at that. That car just doesn't seem to want to be able to turn right. It's an interesting one. There we see him in the background cutting over the racing line into pit lane. He goes for sure, and that is not an happy car.
It is not. And
now a little bit further up the road, I want to point on this. There's a battle for P2 and 3. Ewan and Rose are very close, a 10th between the two. Don't know if we can pick up in that battle. There we go. Here's Rose trying to eye up Ewan very early on in this stint. Of course, if she does have new, fresh, soft tires, she will be able to close into Kirby really quickly here. Ewan is kind of a buffer now for Kirby, really. The longer Rose is going to stay behind Ewan here, the more she's going to struggle to catch up to Kirby. Traffic now coming into play 2. Coming on to the last straight before we run into sunset. This is where maybe Rose is going to be able to make that pause. If not, though, she has to make it before we get into turn 1. After that, really, Ewan, there are not a lot of overtaking opportunities anymore.
Not really. There is a pit stop, by the way, for James Walker as well in GT3. So that lead has changed. Kataranakis now leading there, but Mia Rose is really trying to get through on John Owen right now, up in towards turn number 1. It's about the 2 Peugeots holding Mia Rose back for the moment because of the strategy difference that we have. Rose on the newer tyres, though, should have enough here to go through. It's a good exit off at turn 1. Ian knows it. He blocks to defend a little bit, but Rose still down the inside. Ian forced on the outside line, locks up just a little bit, and that will be the move. It's a mistake from the driver of the Peugeot just a little bit after he was pushed offline, and Mia Rose is up into second place already.
Well, just got a bit of the marbles there, I think, for the Peugeot, and that is a position switch between those two. Rose up into P2, Ewan down to P3. Now I'm interested to see, can Mia Rose eat into that lead from that Kirby at the front of the field? 21 seconds was the gap at the beginning. If she does want to make some genuine inroad to be able to, well, say to Kirby, you are not going to have a free stop here, she's going to be, or having to be doing this really quickly because, well, Kirby will already be eyeing up the next stop in, about 10 minutes or so for the Peugeot in the lead at the moment. So not a lot of time here for Rose to catch up, and I don't think she's going to catch up 21 seconds in that time.
No, I don't think so. And of course, we're only 5 minutes from the halfway mark in this race right now. So Kirby really is in a relatively strong place, as that is a Lamborghini going slowly there. But there is the race leader. Kirby in his own world right now and leading this race by quite some distance with 41 minutes remaining. What is he going to do, though, at his second stop? I think it's going to be a change of tyres and fuel here. And then I think could be a third stop from Kirby further down the line. Rose, though, going to try and do this one on just 2 stops in the Porsche. Not sure whether that's down to a car difference between the two or just a strategy difference. We just don't know, really. And some of the drivers may not know, really, either. But you can imagine that the driving style of the driver will be making quite a difference.
Of course, tyres will listen very carefully to how the driver is well going about with the car. If you're a little bit easier on your throttle and you just pick it up very easy instead of just having a very heavy right foot, which is always my problem when I drive a sim. I have a very heavy right foot, so I slide the car about a lot. What it does give you, though, is quick hands, and you are going to need that when the tires get to the end of their life, because you are going to be sliding. You are going to have a little bit of a snap on almost every corner, entry and exit. So to be able to catch that little bit of a snap very easily done, to lose it under braking or on the exit with these cars. So I am going to be looking forward to the end of these stints already. 19 seconds is the gap now for Mia Rose, so she is eating into that leader Kirby. Just not quick enough, I think, to get past on track. Now, she doesn't need to do this. Kirby is going to make an extra pit stop, which will put Kirby well, further behind Rose than Rose is behind Kirby now, which will mean that towards the end of this race, Kirby needs to have a substantial lead over Rose in order for him to, well, really be able to have a shot here at this victory. And we saw this last time out at Portimao too. Rose on a, well, fuel-saving strategy here in the second stint. It seems like to just go a little bit longer than her usual stints, and it helped her last time out at Portimao, and I do think that we will be having a little bit of a same situation here in this race. Looking at the LMGT3 field, the gap there between, well, Katarinakis and Zelenki is about 3.3 seconds, so very much closer there in that field. Ewan in the Hypercars has lost about 3.7 seconds already to Rose. All in all, though, in the GT3, much closer, or in GT3 YAM especially, the top, or well, P2, 3 and 4 covered by a second.
Absolutely. It is fantastic to see. As, by the way, Sasha Sobers has made his first pit stop of the day and will probably need a splash of fuel a little bit later as well. Expecting the GT3s to go all the way on tyres. They certainly should do. But we'll see if they actually manage that. And by the way, in 6th place in the hypercar category right now is Brian Hall, who still hasn't made a pit stop yet in this race, which is remarkable from a hypercar driver. He's only 2 minutes away from making it to half distance. Surely we're not going to see a hypercar driver making this on just one stop here. He's probably going to need to complete one more lap at the end of this one, but he might still be all right, even if he pits at the end of this lap, to only do one stop here today in hypercar. That really would be incredible.
Yeah, that would be in a league of his own. He's the only one, like you said, doing this at the moment. The gap, though, to the lead, you can see it, 54 seconds already. So the fuel saving is, well, quite harsh on him. He is losing a lot of lap time with it. And, well, you're always going to be asking yourself in the end of the race, well, was it worth it? Was it worth losing that little bit of lap time to gain that little bit of extra fuel in the car? And to be able to, well, put myself in a position where I only need to make one stop. I do feel, though, Ewan back into the pit lane. This is an early one.
It is a little bit early. Yeah.
That explains to Ewan why Ewan in a lot of Ewans here sound similar, well, written different. Ewan in the car. That explains why he had a shorter stop in the first stop, put in less fuel, and is now going to go again. Maybe he's taking tires now. We're going to see once he gets out of pit lane if he has, but that will explain there, Ewan, why he had a shorter pit stop than Maya Rose at the end of it. Maya Rose still in the soft, Tom lane on the medium, so he has switched last time round, and he is, in fact, we're going to see it now. He is on to the medium, so still on the same tyre, no tyre change there for Ewan, and that might play into his hands come the second pit stop phase.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think maybe there was a, well, yeah, for it to be a full fuel stop and tyres as well, would have to be closer to 50, I suppose.
Yeah.
Seconds. But, so, I don't know, maybe didn't do a full fuel stop, but I don't know. Anyway, it's Ewan back out there again. As Kirby comes into the final couple of corners now, might well be in the pit lane here as well as Mia Rose tries to catch up right now. That was a bit weird as the weather conditions change dramatically here this afternoon. We are halfway through this one now and getting down towards the end. Through the final corner now for Mia Rose. Behind some drivers that are already a lap down here in Hypercar. There's going to be a bit of a squeeze here as that BMW was just floating towards them again. I think it was Brandon Gant maybe, or one of the others. Mia Rose down the inside of one of the lapped Hypercars, and this is going to become an even bigger problem now. Not only do they have the GT3s to negotiate, but also slower cars in your own class as well.
The car off on the left-hand side there, though, Ewan. I don't know which car it was. It was a bright yellow car. Seemed to be a GT car, and if we do look, Brian John has DNF'd out of this race. Don't know what happened to him, but he went back to pit lane. There we see it on the bottom, and Brian John has DNF'd out of this race.
He certainly has. Now, wonder what happened there really, because maybe it was him who was off to the left-hand side there. I don't really know. But one of the few BMWs we have has now gone, as we're on board with the Sasha Service here in a battle for second place in the AM category. This is on the back of Peter Meyer, who hasn't made a pit stop. Neither has Becky Eli, who's still out there, by the way, at the lead of this category right now. It just shows you the dominance that Sobers has had so far. However, he is making 2 stops here. I think he'll need a splash at the end of the race. But Eli and also Meyer won't. It might not matter though. Sobers down the inside out of turn 7, and he is through into second place in AM.
Well, it was Meyer rather going a bit wide there, it seems like, in that class. A little bit under pressure there, and immediately cracked under the pressure. You know, it's so difficult if you are on older tires or are a little bit in a deficit of pace, and you see a quicker car coming up behind you, because you can see the gap that Sauber has already pulled here. So just stay calm. You don't want to lose too many time fighting a car that you know is quicker than you. And I think very smart there by Meyer to, well, not really from himself, maybe a little bit forced to let Sobers by there. Not going to lose too much time doing that, and, well, fighting him would have been unnecessary, I think, looking at the gap that Sauber is already pulling on Meyer.
Absolutely, it is quite a gap, and I don't think it would have mattered anyway. Hit on board with Mia Rose right now out of turn 7. 11 seconds is now the gap to Kirby. And I'm not sure if he'll be making this one on just 2 stops or whether it will be 3. But if it's only 2, then Rose has got a real job to try and catch right now, with just 33 minutes remaining. Those that haven't stopped yet will be able to make it to the end on just 1 more stop. That includes Brian Hall in Hypercar, which is quite remarkable. It includes Becky Ellie and also Peter Meyer in the GT3 AM category. It includes Tom Markjoy as well, who's also still out there. We may see some others only going for 1 stop here today. That's one of the best things about this race as well, is that it does open a lot of doors in terms of strategy for people to do a lot of different things.
Yeah, mind you, Hall still hasn't made his pit stop. He is still in P5 without making his pit stop. Which means that he'll be comfortably able to go to the end, because we are over the halfway point now. A little bit of traffic there for Maya Rose for a second. She's going to run into the McLaren. Luckily she didn't. Got her way through cleanly. The Ferrari, of course, no issue on the straights. People making their pit stop in GT, and still John out of this race with a DNF. And well, it does make you wonder, was that the bright yellow car that was off to the left-hand side coming out of turn 3? Because it seemed like a very unfortunate place coming out of turn 1. Sorry, excuse me, that was where, well, I think Champ was off. And, well, unfortunate to see him DNF. DNF from a good position. He did, though, it was in P3 when he DNF'd.
Yeah, it was up there in GT3, and it's not even going to be classified, I don't think. With this one, you need to complete 75% of the race, which would take you until about, 20 minutes to go? That's maybe a little bit less, 15 minutes to go to be sure, but probably closer to 18 in terms of where you'd need to get to be classified. So we're still quite a distance from that, as DiMarzio is in from 2nd in the Hypercar AM category. That will still continue on. John Owen is out in 6th place here in Hypercar, and he's trying to close down Hall, who I'm beginning to suspect may have already been in. However, his pit stop just hasn't shown up, because this stint is quite ridiculous now in Hypercar.
Yeah, well, this can't be true, really, with the fact that everyone has been able to go in at least once, had to go in at least once, and I do think that it hasn't shown up yet. If I look on my screen, by the way, he has made a pit stop on my timing screen. No, he hasn't, indeed. No, I was looking wrong. The thing that I was looking at, though, which is also very impressive, is the fact that Sobers is leading the GT3s overall. The driver in the AM class in the GT3 is leading the way overall in that class. After that, of course, comes Walker. But yeah, very impressive there from him. James Walker, though, in P20, right behind Sobers. The gap between them about 5 seconds on the track. But overall in GT3, it is a GT3 AM driver leading the way.
Yeah, it is. And Sobers has just demolished the GT3 AM field today. Maybe there will be a bit of movement there, because he could certainly hold his own in the GT3s. As you mentioned, would be leading that one right now. As we look at the battle for 7th in Hypercar, it's George Angelidis and also Norm Graff as well in the Cadillac, the highest performing of the two Cadillacs here today, as William Miller is way down in 18th at the moment, and the last of the hypercars in this race right now with just under half an hour to go. There's a pit stop now for Gruff. We're very much getting into that portion of the race. If you can make it to 25 minutes to go, then you will be able to make it to the end without stopping again in Hypercar, and I do wonder just how close Daniel Kirby is going to get to that number.
Well, I am looking at an interesting statistic here as we see the Acuras behind carving through the traffic really, and now this is going to be a little bit of an easier part to make your way through the traffic. A little bit of a straight. Here we see the kink. Difficult to make your pass there because you can see the GTs wash all the way out to the outside. Now don't go for the move here. Don't do it. Oh, that's a tricky position to go for that move because you don't really want to give up the inside of that corner. As GT, it is going to lose you so much speed. Now, that has allowed Marazzi in the Ferrari to get closer to the Acura in front of that. The Lamborghini, though, that we see in front of Marazzi is 7 cents. It's still between the two. Now, again, traffic for the Lamborghini. That's again going to set him back a little. Now, wide through Sunset to that has allowed the Ferrari right back into this fight for P3, so for the last podium spot. And where do you think Marazzi with the slipstream now is going to be able to make this move?
Well, this is a very, very condensed point of the GT3 AM order, but it's about to change here as Marazzi makes his way to the inside, coming out of turn 1, and it will have that place into 2 as well, as Matt Booth is going to have to give that one up right now, and will fall back in line in that 4th place after losing that podium position. By the way, Daniel Kirby has also been in from the lead of the race, now 35 seconds off the lead in that 3rd position. So that is interesting, but short of the 25 minutes he really needed to be doing. So it looks like Mia Rose might be making 2 stops today. Kirby looks like he'll have to make 3.
Well, Marazzi now passed the Lamborghini. I want to point something out. That's the fact that there seems to be a little bit of an audio glitch with one of the cars. So the game audio has been turned down. That's why, if you were wondering why is my game sound all of a sudden so low, that's the reason. So we apologize for it, but there's nothing that we can do right now. The Peugeot carving its way through the traffic. The Ferrari now ahead of the Lamborghini. Marazzi up into P3. But, well, the Boost will not give this one up without a fight.
Certainly won't. Had to give the position up really after just going wide at turn 1 on this lap, but is on very close again here on the back of the Ferrari. But a good little section there from Marazzi to get out of Le Mans in a good place, and in a place that he can really defend from the front with this one here, down in towards the Sunset Bend, and this fight for third will extend out even more as Bruce goes a little bit wide through Sunset, and then the Ferrari gets all out of shape. Marazzi gives up the position immediately again, and well, that was 2 exchanges of position on the same lap there, and both really due to mistakes.
Well, that's not ideal for Marazzi. Now, Kirby made his pit stop, and he is going to have to make another one, because from as far as I know, it will be the splash and dash, but the longest he has gone so far, it's less than 25 minutes, which is the longest that Rose has gone so far in that car, which will mean that the last 25 minutes of this race, Rose will be able to do in one stop. Kirby, I don't know. Has he taken tires? Has he done fuel? Or has he fueled it up completely now? The longest stint Kirby has done, and that's to our knowledge, is less than 25 minutes. So to our knowledge, Kirby will need to make a pit stop again, which will put him down a couple of positions. However, though, it will only be in splash and dash, so it won't be a long pit stop.
No, it won't. But any pit stop could be enough to see this one change. We'll see if Rose changes tyres again at this second stop as well. We'll just see. But she's been taking a lot out of them so far, so you would maybe expect there to be another change, as we're on board with Mazur now on the back of Stephen Miller in the GT3 field. This, of course, being the championship leader of this championship standing. That is Stephen Miller after winning at Daytona and taking pole at Portimao on the podium there. So top 5 right now and a good place to be, but using Mazur trying to work her way through, and that's one of the cars a lap down now, getting out of the way of everybody. I think that's Adam Gray in the Reptile Racing BMW. So that gap will just extend out a little bit, but yeah, and there it is on board with him now. It does seem that those gaps that were so close in GT3 AM have extended a little bit over the last 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, well, turn 14 there, exit turn 14, was a really tricky one for the Peugeot. Of course, getting caught up behind the BMW and the McLaren, of course, blocking the road ahead of him in their own fight, of course, as they're entitled to do. But it made it difficult for the Peugeot to get past, as it does for the BMW. Now has to wait to get past as well. Now he is past. He's actually going to be able to get past the McLaren. He is not, and he's now going to be stuck behind him through this whole 3, 4, 5 complex, which is a tight complex that you don't want to be stuck behind another car, really, as a hypercar, because you are going to lose loads and loads and loads of time, as you can see. Miller, though, of course, nothing he can do about that. The only thing he can do is drive his own line, which he has done. Mazur behind that, about 8 tenths back, catching and catching. And I have a strong feeling here that Ferrari is going to eye up a move in the next 2-3 laps or so.
Well, Mick Rose is into the pit lane from the lead, and there we go. Up on the jacks as well, by the looks of things. So it is going to be a second tyre change. Whereas I'm not sure that Kirby has taken any, or if so, only one at the very most here in this race today. But the Peugeot not quite able to go and run this race as fuel efficiently as maybe they would want. Kirby goes through on Rose. That's going to be a big gap. And now we're going to see what the gap actually is and see if Kirby can fit in his splash and dash before Rose will be able to overtake him. That's really what this race boils down to now.
I think with the fact that I see that the gap is already so big, he can comfortably, well, fit in a splash and dash if he can keep this gap. Now, the trick for Rose is going to be the fact that she's going to be on new tires. And, well, it means that Rose is going to have the time, or is going to gain time, in fact, on the leader. Tom Lando also still in the lead in his Porsche. Seems like Kirby on those medium tires has made the right choice for the moment. Going long and taking the medium tires for now. We are going to see the race go into, well, the dark minutes, which in games will be about an hour or two. But it's going to be interesting to see how the cars are going to react. Certain cars are going to be quicker now than the others at night time. It's going to be interesting to see how this, well, order of the cars will change now.
And look, Mia Rose is on soft tyres as well, so clearly that's a change there as well, I believe, anyway. That's a change from what she had before, and clearly there's going to be a real push towards the end of this one in Hypercar, but I would say that it's probably between Daniel Kirby and Mia Rose, really, for a race win, realistically.
Well, soft for Mia Rose. Kirby, only mediums. Don't think he changed tires. Tom Lando, don't count him out. He's also on the mediums into the pit lane now. And he will only be taking tires, I expect, from the fact that he is on the mediums after that first stop. So we're going to be able to see where he's going to pan out compared to Porsche counterpart Rose, who's now coming down the start-finish straight. We're going to see how many seconds that Rose potentially lost with the tire stop. So even now also into the pit lane. Here comes Rose. I expect her just to be ahead of Lane, just because the gap before the pit stop was about 30 seconds, and I don't think you're going to lose 30 seconds in a tire change now. Where is Tom Lane going to be able to fit out? There he comes out of pit lane. I expect this gap to be around 10 seconds. Let's see what it's going to be when Lane comes out of pit lane.
Well, that's got a nice bit of symmetry to it, but it does look like it's going to be 4th place pretty comfortably. Subic in 5th as well. For some reason, I entirely forgot that Mia Rose did softs earlier, and I'm getting mixed up, to be honest. Yeah, that was not my most intelligent moment, but there we are. 30 seconds is the gap between at 1 and 2 right now, and it's Kirby versus Rose. But it's a case of, can Kirby drive down the pit lane, get the fuel that he needs for those final few laps, and get back in front of Rose before the end as well? And what's John Owen going to do for the remainder of this one as well? He could very much help out here for Peugeot, because while I think he needs a splash of fuel as well, and he won't beat Rose here today, and he probably won't beat Tom Lane either, he could very much help Kirby by just being a bit of a nuisance on the back of the Porsche driver.
Is going to be able to do that because the gap is opening up to Rose, about 30.9 seconds in the gap now to Kirby. We're going to probably see that gap shrink a little bit. But is this another Mia Rose, masterclass? Because last time out of Portimao, it was a strategy call for Maya that, of course, gave her the victory. Of course, pace comes with that, though. Without the pace, she wouldn't have been able to call that one. Now, the strategy is really what helped her there. 50 seconds in the end she gained there. The gap about 30 seconds to Kirby. I don't think that there's going to be a comfortable fuel stop in there. Pit lane delta, about 25 seconds just driving through it. Now, you are not going to be stationary for 25 seconds. That's the mistake that a lot of people made, and I made myself too. So that's why I now never forget it anymore. I think it was somewhere at Road America last year, summer, where that happened. So, yeah, that's how traumatic it is making such a big mistake as a commentator. I still know what I did wrong. I said that the driver was going to come out ahead because the gap was 30 seconds and the pit lane delta was 30 seconds too. But I didn't realize, really, that you're not stationary for 30 seconds. So you're not going to gain, effectively, 30 seconds. It's about 25 seconds that you gain. Still a lot, though, but he came 5 seconds too short in the end, which was the gap at the checkered flag. Alas, that's about that race. Back to the action on track. Maya Rose already caught up about 4 seconds on Kirby. If this is going to be, well, the recurring factor all time and time again, because fresh softs and, well, mediums that have been under that car for about 55 minutes already now for Kirby, that's going to be a big difference.
Certainly, any gap that can be closed right now, or any time that can be taken right now from Mia Rose, is going to be very crucial indeed. She's doubled it back to John in there, and also taken 3 seconds out of Kirby as well, so it's down to 26.5. Yeah, it's going to be difficult, I think, for Kirby to get back out in front again, but it is going to be close between these two, and traffic still very much a factor. We've got everybody still in this race apart from Brandon Gunt down at the bottom there, so that's still a lot of traffic to negotiate, and still 17 GT3s for them to negotiate out there on the circuit, which around at a race like this is difficult. And of course, we're in the dark now as well for the final 20 minutes. This is going to be a nighttime race, and we'll see just how that changes things for these drivers, whether they've got any more or less grip, really, but I'm not entirely sure it will make heaps of difference.
Look at the driver lap times. This will mean that I think lap times will get a little bit quicker. Drivers are green if I look at my timing all across the board, so lap times are getting quicker and quicker. Now, I don't think we will be able to beat our qualifying lap time anywhere near, or just get anywhere near it. 45.8 is the target time at the moment for Daniel Kirby. And, well, what we will be looking at here is the lap times of Maya Rose. Last time round for Maya Rose, lap time 146.9, a lap time for Daniel Kirby, 151.1. Now, I don't expect that to be the case the whole time. However, Tom Lane in the Porsche behind that, a 51.1 last time round 2. So that could all just be down to traffic.
Certainly could. 15 minutes to go here at Sebring, and somebody asking in the YouTube chat how to join the championship.
I'll get the link out.
Yeah, absolutely. There's anyway, it's already in the YouTube description. That's what I was going to mention. The Discord is already in there, and the League Info channel in there is will give you all the sign up and download instructions and the mods and all of that kind of thing. I can see this championship getting very popular over the next year or so, and maybe even beyond that as well, because it's a very exciting category in real life, and it's no surprise people want to drive it in rFactor 2.
No, definitely not. It's great to see these cars out on track. Where else in what other simulator do you get these kind of modded cars? You can't do this really in any other simulator. iRacing doesn't allow you to, as we see the leader of the GT3 AM class go into the pit lane. And, well, where is he going to filter out? About a 42-second lead over Ellie in P2. And Ellie's still needing to make a pit stop. So this might well be a very demanding victory here by Sobers. Has, well, got out about a gap of about 41 seconds over the course of the last hours or the last hour or so. And, well, 14 minutes left here when he comes out of pit lane. Wow. This very much has been, well, an untroubled race really for Sobers, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been. And that, by the way, was a very, very short stop there. Got, 5 seconds in the box. We've taken about 18 litres or so with that one. And so Becky will not be able to get any closer. Really, will stay second in GT3 AM and will probably finish there by the looks of things as well, scoring 27 points as things stand. However, of course, we do have that other server to worry about, and so that may well change things. We're just coming up towards the end of lap 32 now. For this server, we have had a couple of retirements in the other server, and they are a little bit further through their race than we are, I think. Yeah, they're currently completed 30 laps, and unfortunately, not very many of them remaining out there on the circuit. Only 8 in the other class remaining in the other server. Sorry, actually remaining at the moment. And so, yeah, not the place to be, unfortunately, for quite a lot of them. And it looks like the overall race winner might well, not only from this server, come between Kirby and Rose, but also overall as well. It does seem that we've got the pick of the bunch in terms of the drivers in this server as well, looking at the pace that we have at the front of the field, which is really, really quite quick.
Well, we're about 2 laps ahead with less time on the other server. What that is down to, I don't really know. Maybe track temps coming into play. The lap times are a little bit quicker here in this server, so I do think that the winner overall in the hypercar class from this race will be the winner overall. There we go, around the outside there. It's so easy to just slide wide a little bit as GT3 and run into the LMDh. It's so difficult to navigate your way through that. Tires not really helping Daniel Kirby either. We're into the last 12 minutes. Gap has come down already to about 20 seconds to Maya Rose. So, well, a splash and dash is not going to be in there for Daniel Kirby if he still needs to make one. So he's going to have to be hoping that he can get to the end with his tank of fuel.
Absolutely. Well, maybe that's what he is trying to do, because he has lost a third of his margin already. But I'm not really sure what would be quicker, to be honest. Would it be safer, I guess, to just try and do that splash and dash, try and come out in front, but maybe accept that you are going to be second at the end of the day? Or maybe is he going to risk this one, risk running out of fuel, risk losing even more, and try and save this one to the very end? It would be quite a gamble.
Would you want to be chasing, or would you want or would you want to be the one being chased? Because that's also something that some drivers are more comfortable with, chasing someone, than being the one that is being chased. Now, track position, a big factor here. So I don't think that, Kirby is going to pit early on here in this race. And he's going to, leave everything till the last moment if he is going to pit. We're looking at the battle here between Ellie and Boos. This is for P2, P3 in that class. 25 seconds, so they have eaten into the lead of Sobers. Now, I do think that they do have to make a little bit of a pit stop still. But Boos, of course, in P2, P3 for Ellie. Behind that is Marazzi in the Porsche. Never got on top of that mistake that he made and has been losing time to Usinelli ever since, which will mean that the Lamborghini is now in P2 and the Acura is in P3. Now, will the Acura in the hands of Ellie be able to get past the Lamborghini? That's a question that will be answered in the next 10 minutes. We're into the last 10 minutes of this race, Ewan. Where are we expecting this fight to go down?
Well, it does seem that they're staying quite quite similar in terms of distance to where they were previously and where they have been so far, really. So you know, it's looking to stay quite as they are, but the gap's not extending either. We're not seeing Matt Buis able to really get away either, which would be quite telling of where this battle is. So it's still very much in the balance as they. Two Lamborghinis up in front go through, and it looks like Buis, is that him in the pit lane, or was that another? It was a lap car, so a little bit just slowing up that car in front by the looks of it, and Becky Ellie able to gain a little bit from that as Mia Rose goes through on both of them. Ellie looks to the inside through turn number one. The Lamborghini going a little bit wide, but there's going to be no room for a move there. Still 9 minutes to go, but there's a problem with the McLaren just in behind here. That's going to pose some problems. It's James Walker, the leader in GT3, down behind all of them on the, second place in GT3 now, but behind all of the podium runners in GT3 AM.
Where is that going to play out? Because he will have his own race to focus on with, of course, the Acura up ahead of the Lamborghini now. 7 seconds about that gap. Walker not going for a move because, well, he was going for a move, couldn't quite make it stick though. And you can see that gap just open up ever so slightly to, well, and I'm going to have a good shot at this. Katarinakis in P1. I hope I said that as fluently as possible. It feels like a Greek name, so try to pronounce that with my best Greek accent. But Katarinakis in P1 doing a great job at the moment in the Acura. Acura seemingly a very strong manufacturer here. Of course, P3 in the GT3 AM class and P1 and P3 in the GT3 Pro class. Now, can you really call it Pro if a GT3 AM is leading the GT3s overall?
Well, it's a bit of a debate, isn't it, really? Yeah, it's you never know. Kirby still with a 17.5 second margin with just over 7.5 minutes to go. It's a race that is really hanging in the balance right now with 5 cars on the lead lap. And there she is, Mia Rose, trying to close in. At last lap, she's over the line, a 47.0. That was 2.3 seconds quicker than what Daniel Kirby was able to manage. And so, well, this gap's coming down. Is it coming down enough though? I think if Kirby needs to stop, then he's not going to be able to do this. But if he can make it to the end, then we might have a race on, and he might be able to do it.
Well, there we go. He said it. We don't really know what Kirby is going to do. Let's be honest to you with the viewers. We can try and guess what he's doing. We can try and look at what we have to our, ability to see what he's going to do, but we never know a full 100%. There we go. Mia Rose using every little bit of track, diving up the inside of the Acura to get past as quick as possible into this section, but the only thing we can do is guess. We never know for the full 100% what Kirby is going to do. So let's be honest here with the viewers. We don't know what's going to happen. We just think, and our facts tell us, that Kirby hasn't been able to run longer than 25 minutes yet. And he pitted before the 25 minutes to go even. So something tells us that that Kirby is having to go into the pit lane. Now Kirby could Aya's up here. No, he's not. There we go. We get our answer. We were right all along. Kirby into pit lane. Now it is going to be a short splash and dash, but I still think, Ewan, that it's not going to be enough for Kirby.
Yeah, I think even with a drive-through penalty, or just just a drive-through, he wouldn't be able to do this. He slides into his box quite stylishly, actually. But Mia Rose is going to flash through, and there she goes into the lead of this one. Mia Rose now just has to go through the next 5 minutes. Make sure you've got enough fuel on board. It wasn't a long stop at all there for Kirby. He's got the fuel on board now. He should finish second by the looks of things. But Mia Rose here should also take the race win as things look right now. That two-stop strategy working out very well indeed. Changing tyres every time also working out very well indeed. With 5 minutes to go, she's just got to hold it on track to keep this lead to the end.
Well, now with once again Kirby going to be heavier, I don't think Kirby will eat into this lead anyway. Mia Rose, the only thing she needs to do now, like you said, keep that car on the great stuff. Navigate her way through the traffic cleanly. Make sure she doesn't pick up any off-track penalties or a drive-through for picking up too many off-tracks. which would be a clumsy thing to do. Now, a drive-through is going to make things interesting because I do think that on these softs, she could well gain a few seconds. So if Maya Rose wants to do all the viewers a pleasure here and us, pick up a drive-through or just drive through the pit lane, and we'll have an interesting race again, because the 18 seconds I don't think will be closed down by Kirby.
Certainly won't. It certainly won't, but there we are. Over the final few corners again, and towards the line. Just over 4 minutes to go, so we're going to get 3 more laps out of this. And with just over 20 seconds, it's going to be a big gap as well. Nearly 20 seconds is also the story in GT3 AM. Hypercar AM has more than a minute between them, and GT3 a little bit closer as Adam Gray has gone off through the final corner, and that is not ideal and not a great place to have to rejoin either.
No, that's not a position where you want to be. He goes into the pit lane even. So it's going to maybe... He was on his way into the pit lane, but just spun because the tires were under too much load. The tires couldn't stay under that much load for so long. There we go into the pit lane, goes Adam. Maya Rose, though, still in the lead of this race. And, well, a very demanding victory from him.
It's, yeah, very commanding indeed. 20 seconds. And, well, this Porsche serving well. Let's just go through the manufacturers, by the way. But Porsche, Peugeot, Porsche, Acura, Peugeot, top 5. First Cadillac down in 11th. Only BMW Dahlgren down in 13th as things stand. It's a Mercedes leading at the front of GT3 AM with an Acura leading in GT3, but that's only for now. It looks like Katrinakis is making one less stop than James Walker is today, and so the 3 seconds between the two of them could well close before the end here. That is a fight we could see develop before the end.
Well, that would be interesting. Maya Rose still with a bit of a lead here. There we go. There's Walker. 2.7 seconds also the gap to Katrinakis in P1 in that class. So also gaining. Is he going to run out of time, though? Because there isn't long to go anymore in this race, 2.5 minutes. So I do think that with about, 2 more laps after this one for these drivers, and then we will get to the end. James Walker, though, where will he be able to go? 2.4 seconds. The gap is ever closing to Katrinakis, but is he going to be quick enough? There in the distance, you can see where Katrinakis is. There he is in the front now of your screen. The Acura, 1.6 seconds. This is going to be a battle till the end of the race, Ewan.
It certainly is. Vasilis Katrinakis with only just over a second. Now, it kind of depends as well where Rose is in terms of how many laps we're going to get for these two. We've worked it out, of course, for the race leaders. But what about for these two drivers fighting over first position in the GT3s? Well, they're making their way down the back straight right now, negotiating one of the modern Corvettes as well. Now, this is the fight for 18th overall. Rose is just coming out of turn 7 right now as these two make their way into the final corner. And so there'll be 1 lap to go for Rose next time by. But as these two come past, it's 2 laps to go in GT3. Katrinakis has been caught very quickly and might well be passed just as quickly with just over a minute to go. James Walker down the inside for the lead in GT3. The McLaren right up to the wall on the left-hand side. And around the outside, Katrinakis able to hold on to the first attack there from Walker, but there's going to be a lot more before this race is over.
With only 15 seconds to go now, James Walker is going to be eyeing up a move here on Walker or Katrinakis. Where he's going to be able to make that move, though, because it seems like through these sections here, there isn't really enough room. Now maybe down the inside of 7. Not quite able to do anything. He's going to look for the move down the inside of Katrinakis. Now the run out of the corner is going to be important, and he gets it with about 25 seconds to go in this race. There's a lead change in GT3 AM, or GT3 Pro, excuse me.
Absolutely fantastic. As Miro starts the final lap of the race with seconds remaining, there is the Porsche leading this one by 21 seconds. It couldn't be closer in GT3. James Walker has made an extra stop here today, and Katrinakis making this work on only 1 stop, and the McLaren has still won out. The Acura all out of shape through Tower Corner. He's given this everything in that car behind, but it looks like it just won't quite be enough.
Now, the thing that they've got to look out for is if the Hypercar now overtakes them of Maya Rose, which it is a possibility, then they are also on to their last lap. So they're going to have to be quick here. Maya Rose, of course, coming through now. I don't think that he's going to be able to catch up to them. I don't think he's quite quick enough in that car, but that was a possibility. Now, I do think that when Walker got past, Walker now through the last corner, coming through Sunset. He's going to complete another lap. So it's Karamanakis. Now, if, well, Walker doesn't do anything crazy, you know, it is a checkered flag, it seems like.
Well, he's waving it, but nobody's taken it yet. But he's
That's a weird one.
He's a bit eager on the starting. I'm pretty sure that's how it works anyway. It normally is. So we'll see here as Mia Rose is going to end this race, let's hope, in the way that we're expecting. But even though the checkered flag has already been waving, a little bit of lift off on the way in. But I think we all know what the result is going to be here. It's going to be 2 in a row for Mia Rose as the Porsche comes over the line. There is the checkered flag. Celebrations will ensue as the 60 minutes of Portimao winner also becomes the 1.2 hours of Sebring winner here in the virtual World Sports Car Championship of 2023. It won't be a championship lead. That will still go to Daniel Kirby, and it will be retained there. But Mia Rose will certainly close in with a second win in a row. In the Hypercar AM category, it's going to be Wayne Hutchison who's going to get this one ahead of Barry DiMarzio, who was leading for
second
time.
Also, second victory in a row here, Ewan.
Yeah, certainly is. And is may well overtake Guillaume Benck in the lead of this category as well, by the way, in the Porsche. So that might well be a win and a championship lead for Wayne Hutchison, who comes over the line. Now, the most dominant performance of the day, GT3 AM, is going to go to Sasha Sobers in the Mercedes. His first outing of the season has been quite successful here.
Yeah, what a drive for him. James Walker, though, in the GT3 Pro class, we saw it on the second to last lap. Kendra Renakis, though, has made a mistake, or his tires have gone completely off the cliff. 9.8 seconds the gap there, but he's going to come through to take victory in the McLaren. And, well, celebrations very much already were going on before he went through the last corner, because the gap already in the end, about 10 seconds there, is Jamie Zalecki, though. He's coming through. Has he run out of fuel, though? Or has he already taken the checkered flag? I think he has, with the gap he had to those drivers. Certainly not up to racing speed, it seems like, for him. There we go through Sunset for one last time. The sun has already set here at the Sebring circuit, but through comes Jamie to take P3. Very happy with that indeed. And the only DNF really in this race was John down in P5 in the GT3 Pro class. So 36 drivers starting this race. 36 drivers coming across the finish line, or 35 of them coming across the finish line.
Yeah, have a look at this, by the way. Jamie Zalecki celebrating the oh no, oh dear, in the wall.
That's an expensive donut.
Yeah, oh nice, yeah, very good. He'll be pleased though. That's Jamie Zalecki with a podium in that one, and indeed you are correct. Everybody getting over the line. Well, actually, I think Stephen Buis and Matthew Overton may be retired towards the end of this one, but I think they'll get they'll be classified just about, maybe. I think Stephen Buis will be. Overton going to be close. Whether he gets classified for that one, it'll be a half point if he does. But these are the standings. Mia Rose winning this one ahead of Daniel Kirby, Tom Lane, Timon Subic, who finishes ahead of Donovan before the end. That's your top 5, and those that finished on the lead lap as well. Brian Hall, 6th place ahead of George Angelidis. Then it's Eric Mounier and Alexander Schutz, Norm Graff rounding out your top 10. That's 4 manufacturers contained within the top 10 of the Hypercar category. Magnus Dahlgren in the BMW 11th ahead of Jerry Chen. Then it's Jules Lalonde ahead of Ross Smith. Matthew Overton finishing, 15 laps down by the end of that there. So maybe not classified by the end of this race. Here are the Hypercar AM category results, if we can grab them. They've we weren't quite able to get through it in time to see the results, unfortunately. That's partly my reading skills there, not being quite quick enough to get through. But either way, we know the race winners, and of course we'll have full race results out very soon as well. But a good and enjoyable race there, Dan.
Yeah, definitely. I enjoyed it. And well, what a race it was, especially in the GT3 Pro class. It all coming down to what the last 2 laps, of course, making an extra stop for Walker. But, well, did he do it maybe to just save his strategy, go on save? And did that almost, well, play against him? But it looked like in the end, still a demanding victory. You wouldn't say that, well, after... well, there were 2 laps to go, he overtook him because the gap in the end was what, 9.8 seconds?
Well, let's have one final look at the schedule here before we leave you here tonight, because we'll be able to tell you when we'll next be racing in this season. It is Long Beach coming up next for 60 minutes here in this one, and that'll be a very, very difficult day. They've got about 4 weeks to think about this one, Dan, but Long Beach probably the most difficult race on this calendar.
Well, Long Beach is a track that for drivers, I'm going to have to say, is always one you do not really look forward to because, well, the walls are so close. It's a really tricky track to overtake on, not something that usually the drivers are looking forward to because overtaking is something that we love. Also a 60-minute race there, so just as all the others. We do have one 60-lap race in the season, but that's at Watkins Glen, so that's still a long, long, long way away.
It is. That's coming up in June, which does feel like a very long way away at this point. Before we leave you as well, we'll have a quick chat to race winner Mia Rose. I can drag in now. Mia, welcome to the booth. Good to have you here, and congratulations on first place here tonight. It was a bit of a strategical race in the end. You made 2 stops. We saw that... some making 3. It was a little bit all over the place in terms of who was making, what amounts of stops and so on. But how did you approach this race first of all, and then how did you see it going along as that race went on? Kirby made 3 stops. Did you always believe in your own strategy?
Yeah. So after Portimao with all the fuel saving, I thought, well, this is probably going to be a fuel saving race too. But found out later that you only needed to save, I think it was about 3 or 4 laps over the race, so it was very easy to put it down a map or 2 and then just keep going as you would. But yeah, he had me worrying there in the lap before his last stop. I thought, is he saved enough here and I've got to push? But then he came in and had to take, I think, half a tank at the end, so it worried me a bit. But yeah, that entire time I was just pushing because I knew that I didn't know that Kirby was on mediums. I just found out that he was on mediums at the start. But yeah, just from the get-go, it was softs all the way. I didn't think the mediums would keep it up in terms of pace, so I just went softs all the way, changed them every stop, and yeah, it worked.
And it's 2 race wins in a row now for you in this series, which is absolutely fantastic. How are you getting to grips with the new category, with the new car?
Very well. It's a bit different. Very different style of handling compared to the official LMP2s and all that are like. But no, it's different. Once you do a few laps, it's it's fun to drive. It's different, but it's very fun and can be rewarding when you get it all right.
Certainly, and I guess race winning is rewarding as well, to be fair. So congratulations on a 2nd win in a row here, Mia, and we look forward to seeing you at the next round.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Mia Rose victorious in Hypercar today. Victorious in GT3 AM with Sachin Sobers, who I can bring in now as well. If you're there, Sachin, can you hear us?
Yes, please. Good afternoon. Good day.
Good afternoon, good evening. It's good to have you here. GT3 AM victory today by quite some margin. You decided to make 2 stops today instead of the 1 that quite a lot of the others made. Why did you decide to do that in the end?
Well, firstly, I was really trying to make it a 2-stop, but the fuel calculator that I had on my dash was telling me that I would have been a little under, so I decided to make 2 stops, and I had a gap, and I saw James behind me, James Walker pit, so I decided to pit also.
And I believe this is your first appearance this season in this championship. What are your expectations for it throughout the season? Where do you want to be by the end?
Well, coming into this first race, I wasn't really sure how it would be against everyone, but I guess like after qualifying, I had it set in my mind that a win was possible. So I guess we'll take it as it goes, but it was a good result.
Certainly was. Congratulations, Sachin, on the win in GT3 AM, and thanks very much for coming to chat to us.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Sachin Sebring there. GT3 AM, victorious in GT3 AM, I should say, if I could speak in the right order. And just behind him was Becky Ellie in the second position, who joins us now. Becky, welcome to the booth. Second place here in this race for you today, and a bit of a fight towards the end there. How were those closing minutes in the darkness and with the battles for you?
They were terrifying. It's actually fourth place rather than second, but thank you very much for the compliment.
How did I manage that? I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
I think I was second. I guess I was second leading into the end, and then I had a little collision with a hypercar, and that dropped me back a bit. Then James went flying through like the speed of light. It was terrifying at the end, absolutely terrifying, and I was so scared, like just of the hypercars. And I was just like, take it easy. Keep it on the track, just go slow, take it easy. And it turned out that the guy in front of me, I can't remember his name, he was running out of fuel on the last lap. So I ended up right behind him crossing the line. So if I hadn't have taken it easy, then I would have got an actual podium rather than just an amateur one. But yeah, amazing race. And I'd like to thank George for making the car, because that NSX is the most fun in a GT3 I've ever had.
Yeah, it's the mods are fantastic for this series. Certainly, earlier on, obviously you mentioned it briefly there in terms of the last few moments and just taking it easy and whatever. But is traffic around this circuit particularly more scary than usual, or is it just the fact that these hypercars are so much quicker than the GT3s, or was it the narrowness of Sebring maybe that was making it worse?
It's my first time making it worse. So it's my first time doing a GT3 hypercar race. It's my second big race with these guys, and the first one I was in one of the faster cars, so I didn't have to worry so much. So yeah, it was that. But luckily George said at the beginning, just stick to your line. So I did that. If I was on the right hand side of the track, I stuck to the right rather than sticking to my line. If I was on the left, I stuck to the left and just let them do their thing. Unfortunately, and I'm very sorry to the person that hit at one point going on to the back straight before the last corner, because I was fighting, I left a single car's width and not anymore. And I think he was either taking a very different line to me or he ran wide, and I kind of spun him, and that wasn't good. But I kept myself clean other than that little incident, which I'm quite happy about.
Absolutely, it is the name of the game, of course. So congratulations on fourth place here this afternoon, and thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks very much. Fourth place today for Becky Ellie in the NSX. I don't know how I managed to call that second place. I don't know. But anyway, Dan, that is just about going to do it here for Sebring here this evening. It's been very, very entertaining. And yeah, we look forward to the next round of the virtual World Sports Car Championship, whether it be in the modern or the historic side of things. That will come at Long Beach here in the modern in just 4 weeks' time. Yeah, we're very much looking forward to those 60 minutes of racing around there. And Le Mans, not even that far away in this calendar now. That will just about do us, though, here from JPB here on the Virtual World Sports Car Championship. Thank you to everybody who has been tuned in this afternoon for this one. It has been a pleasure to be here. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Dan Pepel for this one, with William Dent behind the cameras, pushing all of the buttons that you have seen here this afternoon. That's going to be us, though, for this evening. Thanks very much for everybody for watching, and until the next round at Long Beach, it's goodbye for now.